Did we make it? I got music playing somewhere. Where's this music playing from? Do you hear the music, Shane? You hear the music, right?
Nope.
Maybe I need to do this. There you go. I'm like, why do I hear the music in the background? I'm hearing the music. What's going on, Shane?
Not too much. I'm looking forward to tonight. I got a new shirt on, freshly unwrapped.
Look at that.
Lights in the background.
Yeah, I've never seen that shirt before.
No?
No, it's a different shade of green.
Yeah, the other one was starting to fade, so I had to get a new one to, represent the green.
Well, it's funny you should say that because I also have a new shirt.
I saw it. I really like that shirt.
So this is my Arthur Adams classic X-Men #1. I love this shirt. I have a tracksuit jacket of the same shirt. So I was telling my wife, what if I just wear the jacket and in the back it has this same image, but in the front I have this image. And then she's like, that'll be way too much. So she definitely told me no.
Yeah.
And as we know, the wife is always right. Let's go ahead and say what's up to the people in the chat. Las Cruces did not make it. Unfortunately, condolences to Las Cruces and his family. He's going through some hard times right now, so he wasn't able to make the show today. So it feels a little awkward without him, though. So we give you much love to Las Cruces, to your family. Thoughts and prayers go out to you guys. But you know who did kick it off? Joe. And he had to throw it in. Want to get The Rock out of here. Rock, yeah. Why, Cena? Why? We're probably gonna be seeing a few little mentions of some wrestling tropes that we're gonna get here. So we might get some stuff with stuff on wrestling, but because it was a crazy weekend in wrestling.
Really, infinity.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those weekends.
What?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, if you've been under a box, John Cena turned heel. That's a big deal in the wrestling community. Like, not since Hulk Hogan in the 90s have we had something like this happen. So it's a big deal.
The black-haired Hogan or the black banded Hogan?
The Hollywood Hogan, as he calls.
Yeah.
But this is not a wrestling show. This is a comic book show. So we got to say what's up to Nerdy Geek. What's going on? Saying what's up to me. Saying what's up to Shane. And let's see. You're doing your part too as well. We'll talk a little bit about some cons we got going on here. And yes, we finally got to start on time. Amazing. It's amazing. And with time to spare.
Yeah.
I had a chance to, by like 4:30, sit down and relax. And I looked through the PowerPoint, I looked through everything, and I didn't find any errors. That doesn't mean they don't exist.
That was you relaxing, is going through the PowerPoints?
Yeah, I know, right? What's up, D? How you doing? And then here we got, what up, fam? I'm here to see Shane pull a Cena-like turn. Who knows, right? Meanwhile, my wife is busy texting me on my phone because she's going to see a friend. And she's like, I got to take the bus. I'm like, I can't take you. I got a show. So here I am being a bad husband. And look, we already got an era. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Aggressively relaxing. What's going on, homie? We got Kenneth Bird also in the house. And the beautiful and talented Madame is here. Hey, yeah, beautifuls. What's going on? Shane, we got a great list. We got a great countdown that we're going to talk about. We got an awesome spotlight that I think a lot of people have been looking forward to. I myself have been looking forward to this spotlight, and who knows? You know what I said? We don't have any eras. That doesn't mean I might not say somebody's name a certain way.
Right.
Quite often, though. Well, we'll talk about that, and we got some new comic books coming out this week as well. So let's get the show started with the Comic Heat Index. What's the most trending comics as of right now? It's the first week of March. You know what that means to me, Shane?
Well, it's a few days before a monthly show is what it means.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that a little later too. We'll get to that. But it also means that that spring is not too far away. And I'm tired of the winter. I'm sick and tired of the winter. I hate the cold. I want nice temperatures. I want it to be nice and warm. And I look forward to the springtime. It's my favorite time. So
yeah, I like spring.
So we're going to do the first week of March. What are the top trending comics? As I always do, what's your thoughts of what you see as of right now?
It's funny. I was at a little local con, probably about an hour and a half away today, or this Sunday, and I noticed at least 3 different people, not the same person, and not me, and not Chris, who was there as well, but 3 different people digging through looking for Amalgam and DC Marvel books. And I was just laughing every time I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
It was hilarious. The Geiger one, I knew as soon as that cover came out that it was going to be, on list, a second print with the cover appearance of the character that previews at the end. The Mark Spears, I don't know a whole lot about. And the Hulk one caught me by surprise. It's a really cool cover, obviously, but it's a retailer kind of preview exclusive.
Yeah. So, yeah, we got to talk a lot about stuff. And you said the Ultimate Universe. We'll talk a little bit about DC, Marvel. The Mark Spears book hasn't even been released, and we're going to be talking more about that one. That Red Hulk cover, I had a feeling about it. And of course, Geiger is a book that was on the list last week. So it's from this. Well, what you see here is the only book that's on the list this week, but it's not the only one that came back. Before we do that, DVH is in the house. Never fear, the hoot is here. Hoot, hoot, hoot. What's going on? Now he's talking nice and warm. It really why I gotta be a Care Bear, man? What's up with that? Right? What's up, Hornhead? Hi guys, I don't know if you saw Todd's statement about DC Multiverse license. Do you think Todd will continue with the DC Multiverse? You know what? That's a good question. I don't know much about it. Have you heard anything about it, Shane?
Yeah, I watched that interview. I threw a comment down below his, but essentially, he was saying that they don't intend to. McFarlane Toys does not intend to take their foot off the gas. They have a contract up to a certain point, so they're gonna do stuff right up till then, and then Mattel will take over, but they expect to be involved in some way once all the dust settles with contracts, and they're going to find ways to still be involved in DC characters. So
yeah, and I like I said, they're in a good place right now with Todd. I don't think they will sever that relationship. Mattel toys are Mattel toys, so chances are the more conventional toys will probably be done through Mattel, while the more higher end toys will be done through McFarlane. I can see that happening.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Also, random reads. What's going on, Kevin? How you doing? Woo. All right, so let's go ahead and start this list, and hopefully this list is error free. And let's go to our first book. Let's talk about this Mark Spears Monsters #1. This is the 4th printing. It's a retailer exclusive. I use the term exclusive kind of, what's the word you use it? With a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Here's why. It's a Comic Mint. It's a KRS. It's a Comic Corner. So it's 4 different retailers that have this exclusive. Right? So it's a 4 retailer exclusive. This book hasn't even officially come out yet. but sales have already begun. This is an Emerald City exclusive that's supposed to be dropping this weekend. Emerald City is happening later this week, and I did catch a era. Let me see if you catch it. Do you see the era?
No, I don't.
It is Mark Spears' Monsters.
Oh, right, yeah.
The very first book, damn it. All right, let's start this off nice. Mark Spears Monsters #1, the 4th printing retailer exclusive. This book is coming out this year for KeenSpot. Right now, this book is already selling at $85. A fair market value is going for $86. There are 9.8s that are being sold through the retailers. And as of right now, the secondary market's already selling them for $157. This only made the cover price trending list at #5. Chances are we'll see it in their list next week. Sales volume of this book is at 14%, but the hype level is high. This to me is a awesome cover.
Did somebody say that the Mark Spears hype was calming down?
Yeah, it was. Was it me? Because I don't remember that.
No, it's apparently not calming down.
Okay, but I think it is cooling down
slightly. We'll see. We'll see if we're talking about this book again in another week.
I did my FOC today, and there's a Mark Spears book there that I think people will be going crazy to grab.
I think I finished that last week. So is that the Vampirella one?
Nope, not the Vampirella. So this is a DC book that's been scheduled for FOC. So those of you who are getting FOC, today is the last day for FOC. There is a Justice League Unlimited Mark Spears variant of the race between Superman and Flash.
Oh, well, I'll have to ask about that.
Yeah, so that's today's the last day for FOC, so it's worth checking out.
Yeah.
This one here, would you believe we're only on the 4th printing, even though it feels like there's a billion copies of this book?
Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe that this #1 issue has had so much momentum, and we just keep talking about it week after week. It always seems to be in a list.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And now we're at the 4th printing. I could only imagine if there's going to be a 5th or a 6th or something like that. This one's a cool one. Like I said, this one's a cool one. I love the color scheme that he has on it. It's a great book, man.
Yeah, it looks really good. I love the background of it.
Mm-hmm. All right, there you have Mark Spears Monsters #1. Let's take a look at our next book. Spawn #5. This book came out in 1992 for Image Comics. Near mint value of this book in the last recorded sale was $24, while the fair market value is $10 at a very fine. 9.8s are going for about $149. This book is on the trending list for Key Collector at #2, #6 in CBSI, #10 in cover price. Sales volume of this book is also at 14%. The hype level is a medium. Do you understand the reason why this book is in this list? And in fact, it's on all their list.
I think I remember this is the first appearance of a character. I can't remember. I believe it's her name, and who is supposed to be having something happen in the Spawn universe in the next little bit.
Yes, you are correct. Now that you say it, my name is escaping me as well. But it's also the first appearance of a character known as Billy Kincaid.
Yeah.
And Billy Kincaid is a serial killer. And the girl that was involved in the story is also debuted in this book.
Shirley Johnson, I think.
Yes.
Like that.
So why is that coming back today is because they did announce a book with her, and I believe the book debuted last week. So people want to go back to get this book. It's a fairly inexpensive book. Early Spawn copies, there are so many of them. The ones that are hard are the ones that are in the 200 range. Yeah. Those are hard to come across. But the early editions of Spawn, 1 through all the way to 20, really, they're not as expensive. So therefore, they're easy to pick up because they were widely produced.
Yeah.
high, you know, there's a lot of copies. So this one's worth checking out. And this is not the last time we talk about Todd today.
No.
Number 8, The Punisher. I feel like we see this book quite frequently. This book came out in 1987 from Marvel Comics. $15 is the fair market value. Well, actually, the fair market value of the book is $18. The last recorded sale of this book is $15. 9.6 are going for about $90. This is number 3 in CBSI. Sales volume of this book's at 26%. The hype level is a high because we're getting Daredevil tomorrow.
And on top of all of that, they just released a little Instagram trailer that shows a little bit more of the dialogue with the Punisher, but that I thought was really cool. And rumor time, you know, take it with a grain of salt, but supposedly there is a Punisher special presentation in the works through Marvel. So that's also causing this book to go.
I don't think it's a rumor anymore. I think it's official. There is going to be a Punisher special that will be debuting around the same time as the second season of Daredevil. So, or fifth season, depends on how you look at it, right? That's why Punisher is so hot. Once he's going to be showing up in the Daredevil show. I think he'll show up in the latter episodes. I don't think he's going to show up in the earlier episodes. So it's going to keep that momentum alive. But Punisher's hot, man. There's some other books that people are looking for, like Punisher 53, which is part of another issue that's very, very low price. Like I saw a sale for $1 for that book.
Yeah.
It didn't make the top 10, but it's an honorable mention. Let's take a look at number 7. Number 7, we talked about this just briefly. DC versus Marvel Comics #1. This book came out in 1996 for DC and Marvel Comics. In fact, it was a joint effort. If you look at the books, I think 1 and 3 are called DC and Marvel, while 2 and 4 are called, no, or is it the other way around? I think 2 and 3 are called Marvel versus DC, while 1 and 4 are called. It's something like they switched titles. $4 is near mint last recorded sale. The fair market value of this book is at $20 at very fine, while 9.8 are going for $74. Another book that was mass produced, for obvious reasons. The trendy list, #1 on Key Collector, #2 in CBSI, did not make the cover price list. The sales volume, I think, is low for 16%, but the hype level is high. Everybody's going crazy for DC versus Marvel, Marvel versus DC. The next wave of books are coming. I'm super stoked. I can't wait to start seeing what they have what they have planned for it. What's your thoughts?
If I was a comic retailer heading out to cons starting now, I would be pulling all of my crossover books that I had, and I would be bringing them all with me because people are looking for these books, even at lower prices. I think the sales volume will go up, especially if there's an announcement. Like, I think right now, a lot of it is people remember it and they probably are missing some books. Like me, I was the same. I didn't have all the amalgams, but now I'm kind of like, oh, I want to read them all. And I just read about 6 of them. And so they're going to get the other ones. And there's the speculator part of it where they're like, well, is there going to be any characters that they use again or anything like that? So it's a good idea.
Yeah, so Dark Claws is a hot commodity. I would love for them to pull off Spider-Boy. I would just love it because since we have an official Spider-Boy now, why not get the the amalgam version of Spider-Boy and just have fun with that? I think that would be really cool. This is one of those books. We talked about it last week when we did the spotlight on DC versus Marvel. This is a book that a lot of these books are very affordable. They were mass produced. They're easy to grab. There are a few here and there that are a little more difficult to look for. Some of them are fun stories. Like DC All Access is actually it's not a bad story. It's more story driven than, let's say, this one, which is more battle heavy. And Justice League Avengers, I think, is probably one of the best stories.
Yeah. I just read probably 6 of them, and including the first Dark Claw, not the Adventures one. And you know what? That surprised me, and we talked about it, is X Patrol. I thought that was one of the best ones, like story and art over the others. So it was interesting to read them.
Yeah. See, I'm no better. It's supposed to say proof, not poof. Proof? And we got Comic Cap Collectibles. What's going on? Go check out Rich's channel. He's been doing some pressing for me. Oh, I'm super stoked about that one book he just pressed. I'm like, I gotta send that to CGC. Gotta send that to CGC. Gotta send that to CGC. So thanks a lot, Rich, for doing that for us. All right, let's take a look at number 6. And that's your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man #1. This is a brand new book. Came out in 2025 from Marvel Comics. $15 near mint was the last recorded sale. Fair market value of this book is $11. 9.8s are going for about $83. And this is number 9 in cover price. The sales volume is still high for this book at 136%. Hype level, it's going to be a medium. And the reason being, the show's over. There's no, now it's just going to cool off until there's another season. But we've talked about this a few times. We talked about how much fun the series is. Now that it's settled in and it's been about a week later, how would you place this show in comparison to other Marvel animations?
Well, so recent ones, it's near the top. I would put it just below X-Men 97, just because that's got so many more characters in it that I really love. But overall, like a Spider-Man story, it's up there. I just finished watching the animated series from 93. Watched almost the whole thing. I'm just about done it. And it's up there with that too. That, again, has more characters, but I really, really enjoyed this show. I can't really say that enough. If you haven't watched it, give it a chance. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah. Like I said, I've loved it since I started watching it. I've actually stopped watching for a little bit because I've been busy doing other things, but I got to get back to it very soon. And for what I've seen, I've loved already, and I no complaints here. More shocked than anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and these issues are all kind of like building up to the first episode, really, in a way. So I do like that part of it, that it's not a retread of the series.
Yeah. Okay. Number 5 is Pop Kill #1. This is the 1 in 10 Kana variant. This book came out from Mad Cave Studios last week, so it's brand new. Last recorded sale of this book is $28 near mint. The fair market value is $25. Being that this is a new book, there are no recorded slabs. This book came out in CBSI for number 8. It also came out at number 8 for cover price. Sales volume, this book is 32%. Hype level, this book is medium. I mentioned this book last week when we talked about new releases, and I said this will make the list, and I was right.
I'm actually surprised that the other books weren't kind of more in the media as I thought, because those other covers, the other two, the Panosian and the explicit one, I thought were really good covers. I haven't read this yet. This is caught in that vortex, the diamond vortex for me. So I've had to order it from a different place to get it. But
I'm with you. I agree. I think the Panosian and the Still Freeze, which is the exclusive one, those two I thought would have gained a little more momentum than this one, which is the Amanda Condor. But this is the ratio.
Yeah.
So it gets that at least. I didn't read the story. I didn't pick up the book, so I don't know what to expect from it. It's just not my cup of tea, I guess. But I had a feeling, and I was right on that feeling. I think this book was a book that was prime, to be picked up.
I do like this cover. I think it looks good. I just thought the other ones were going to catch more because of kind of the limited nature already of it. But we'll see. Time will tell, I guess.
I gotta say what's up to my boy Tate Prime right there. What's going on, Tate? All right, let's take a look at our next book. Geiger #10, the second printing. This book came out in 2025 for Image Comics. The last recorded sale was $14 near mint. Fair market value of this book is $16 near mint. And 9.8s are going for about $60. This is also number 7 in CBSI, as well as cover price. The sales volume is at 50%. The hype level is at a medium. I think we won't see this book next week.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, this is basically the last panel of this issue is this image. So they tease it, and then issue 11 is already out, and you kind of get a little bit more of the story as to what's going on with this glowing woman character.
Yeah.
But it is a good cover, and yeah, I agree with you. Likely now it's, we're going to move on to other things that won't be this issue.
Yeah, and I think, because it's a second printing, people are still going to be hunting. I know the people are hunting the first printing down now, so the first printing is actually getting hunted as well. However, people just like the fact that she's on the cover, and that's kind of what's causing the sales to increase for this book. But I think the people that want this book have probably already got it.
Yeah.
Moving on to number 3. Invincible 59. This book came out in 2009 for Image Comics. The last recorded sale of this book is $25. The fair market value of this book is at $6, very fine, surprisingly, and $165 at a 9.8. This is on the trending list for key collector number 4. Number 5 is CBSI. Number 3 for cover price. The sales volume of this book is at 33%. The hype level is a medium. What can you tell me about this book?
This would be a complete guess because I missed the boat on Invincible Comics. I'm hoping to get all the compendiums and get caught up, but I love the TV show. I would guess that this has something to do with that Beast character, but I don't know for sure.
So if I go into my key collector app and I'm going to do a hunt down and just type in the issue, because I kind of did forget myself. Let's see. 59 is the first appearance of Powerplex, a man seeking vengeance against Invincible for his sister who was killed during a fight with Omni-Man. So Powerplex is a character that we are, from what I know, we're going to see in the next, if we haven't seen it already, in the newest season of Invincible, which is out now for Amazon. So with that said, his first appearance is gaining traction, and people are picking up the book. As you can see, it made it to all the lists in the trending list. The book, $25 was the last recorded sale. However, the price of the book is still fairly low at $6. So you could probably catch this book in maybe a dollar bin, or somebody might be selling it for lower than expectations. It's a book that I think, as we mentioned before, when it comes to hype, the show's on, people are looking for this character. Once the show has dwindled off and did its thing, this book will probably just reset itself back.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much up to date. I'm only one episode behind, and unless I missed it, I don't remember a Powerplex character being in it yet. I think they're at episode 5 or 6 right now. So,
okay, all right. Let's take a look at number 2. Space Ghost Johnny Quest and How Creative. Space Quest number 1. This is the Ashcan edition, but more importantly, it's a Mark Spears cover. Came out for Dynamite Comics in this year. This is going for $30 near mint. Fair market value is about $27. There's no recorded slabs. It's number 8 on Key Collector, number 2 in CBSI, number 9 in cover price. The sales volume is 38%. Hype level is a medium.
Again, Mark Spears.
Enough said, right?
It's like it's supposed to be going like this, but then, it has these bumps, and, especially kind of, I call it, sorry, Space Ghost and Johnny Quest fans, this is kind of more of an obscure niche type of comic fan that would be regularly buying these anyway. So there is going to be a lower print run for sure, I believe. But
this is an Ashcan, so this wasn't something you could just pick up anywhere. So it is, again, this is the Mark Spears effect, but it's also the Space Ghost effect. It's also the Johnny Quest effect. This is the classic Hanna-Barbera cartoons, which I love. I grew up watching those cartoons. when they were in Cartoon Network. I used to love watching them. Some of my favorite stuff from it, right? And you have a mashup, you have a crossover event with Space Ghost and Johnny Quest, and you throw in Mark Spears to it. Of course it's going to sell. Of course it's going to sell.
I just remember Jabberjaws from Hanna-Barbera.
Jabberjaws, yeah. I like the Impossibles myself. I thought they were cool. So that's number 2. What could possibly be number 1? Red Hulk number 1 is number 1. And this is the PX Previews exclusive by Joshua Casaria variant. This came out last week and it's already going for $65. That's the last recorded sales volume. The fair market value of this book is $69 near mint. 9.8s are already going for $173. This was number 10 in Key Collector, but CBSI and Cover Price both labeled it as number 1. The sales volume of this book is 97%. Hype level has got to be a high. It's Red Hulk and Doctor Doom. And who's hotter than Doctor Doom right now?
Yeah, and I wonder what the print run of this with those exclusives would be. You know, if it's like a 3,000 type thing or what.
Yeah. It was one of those covers that I saw it and I immediately knew it was going to be a big deal. I didn't think it was going to be this big of a deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is one of those ones that, you know, we often talk about where you're going to see this, you know, in 3 months in the summertime at cons, and it's going to be up on their wall to grab your eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be hot for a while. Yeah. And, you know, with all the talk of Doctor Doom, you know, we just came off of Red Hulk, so there'll be stuff like that. This is one of those books, man, that I think people are going to be gunning for. People are be trying to hunt down. I'll let it cool off, but it's kind of hard to it's hard to gauge when it will cool off.
Can you imagine the hype of just in general, but of certain books that's going to happen if they do a really great end scene with Doom in it? It's gonna explode for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I do believe we are going to see Doom in the Fantastic Four movie. Maybe not Thunderbolts, but in Fantastic Four, we're going to see him maybe a post-credit or something like that, because it will lead into Doomsday. Now, there is rumors that Doomsday will be delayed, but we're just waiting for it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. There's your list, guys. Tell me what you think of the ranking system. Which books do you have or you're planning to get? Let me know in the comments. Stay tuned for next week. I think next week we're going to see some Secret Wars coming in because there was some leaks. And I'm excited to see which books we're going to see here. Are we going to see Secret Wars 2?
I was just going to say that. Grab your copies of Secret Wars 2 and hold them tight.
Yeah, and we're talking about the Hickman run, not the 80s version. So check that out. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you for the next one. All right, let's go ahead and happy anniversary Switch! Yahoo! And what do you get? You get a new Switch, so you can spend more money. What's up, Ferret? That was fun. I can't believe I couldn't. That happens to me all the time with the Mark Spears monsters. That's not the first time I've done that with the monster. So it happens. Okay, we are now going to go into our next segment, which is 30, 60, 90. We're going to talk about some books that were hot about a month ago, 2 months ago, and 3 months ago. But what is it? Let's find out in a couple of seconds. I always like that little ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, that's good.
Right. So we have a Mark Spears sandwich of books here. We talked about the first book that you see there, which is that small. We literally talked about that book last week.
Yeah.
And we're talking about it again this week. There was some Lobo hype about a month ago that came back. And then we're going to go right back to Mark Spears again with that homage cover. So immediate thoughts right now as we look at these three books.
Again, we figured Mark Spears' train was pulling into the station, but it just keeps on coming back. And I still can't find this Spawn graded myself. I know that there's a sale, but I have my sort just limited to Canada, so nothing's popped up yet.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But let's go ahead and talk about that Mark Spears Spawn. That's Spawn 356. This book was #1 February 3rd, and it was going for $40 at a 9.8. Would you believe that? That was the high sale of a 9.8, $40. The weekly units were 33 at that time. The near mints were going for $31, while the graded were going for $56. So someone called a sale on that time frame. As of today, the near mints are going about $25. That was the last sale. And 107 units have sold within that 30-day period. They've gone up to $23 near mint, while the 9.8s are still at that $56 range. However, there was a high sale of a 9.8 at $70. Now, the reason why you can't find those 9.8s is there are only 16 in the census.
Yeah, they're in a hold right now. The people that have them, those 16 people, are all waiting for them to go higher, or they're just fans and they're not getting rid of them.
Yeah, that number is going to have to drastically improve, especially with the sales volume. If the sales volume has increased to 107 and within a 30-day period, those 107 books, a good chunk of them's got to go out to CGC for slabbing. We might talk about that this week, though, when we talk about the monthly report. So Who knows?
Well, I have one. I've talked about it before, and I'm putting together a CGC order right now. And I already had the books picked that I was going to send, and I've been debating putting my copy of this Spawn book in, just so that, because I'm 99%, I'm 98% certain that it'll be a 9.8.
Yeah. Oh, then that sucker out, man. Just saying, it'll be a great book for only slabs. Yeah, man. It's just, this book is just not. It was #1 last week in the last week's list, and it's #1 again. So this is 2 weeks in a row for cover price. This is their #1 list. We'll see what happens in a month or two. That's pretty much what we're going to see. All right, let's take a look at our next book here. And this was a book that was hot 2 months ago. Would you believe it's been 2 months since the announcement of Jason Momoa? I feel like it's been longer for some reason. This book in January 6th was #1 for cover price, and it had a top weekly sale of $400 at 9.8. During that week, 186 units were sold. The raws were going for $96 near mint, while the graded copies were going for about the graded copies were going for $404 and the 9.8. As of today, the last recorded sale of this book was $351 and 9.8. During the 2-month period, 304 books were sold. The books have dropped a little bit in value. Raws for $90, so a $6 dip, while the grades were dipping a little bit more at $358 and 9.8. The highest known value of this book was $554, and that was January 3rd of 2023 at a 9.8. This is a book that there's plenty of slabs. Over 10,625 slabs exist of Omega Men 3.
So I was at a little con this past weekend, and shout out to Chris because he was there with me. It was awesome. And Lobo was very well represented at this. Almost every vendor, I would say, had either a raw or graded copy of this, and then a lot of other Lobo books as well.
Yeah, Lobo's going to be hot for a while. I think now's a good time to start thinking about buying if you want to buy it, because as you can see by those prices, we have about a $50 price drop for this book. This book, I think, will continue to drop a little bit unless we get some mention of Lobo. So I wouldn't be too surprised if when the summer comes, when we get the Superman movie, we don't get a glimpse of Lobo there. I'll be surprised if we don't get a glimpse.
Yeah, me too. I think they almost have to. And, it's that constant thing. There's people that love Lobo like you love Lobo, and there's people that will attempt to make money off of the book, which is what some people do. There's nothing wrong with it.
No.
But those people will be looking to buy now and then sell a week before the movie comes out, because that'll kind of be the peak time to sell.
Well, yeah, and it's just a speculation of whether or not he'll make an appearance.
Yeah.
You know, and we already know that Supergirl is going to make an appearance in the Superman movie. So is Lobo going to make that same appearance? Who knows? So be on the lookout for that. I think during this time frame, between now and then, this is probably going to be the best time to buy the book, because afterwards, the price is going to go up again. And that's just me being a speculator. This is not, take my word as is. Don't take it as law. Okay, guys? Just have to throw that out there.
Yeah.
All right, that's your disclaimer. Let's take a look at the book that was hot 90 days ago. And that's Mark Spears, Monsters. There's the S. Number 2. This is the Ultimate Comics Amazing Spider-Man 601 homage. This was limited to 500 copies. This book came out in 2024 for KeenSpot. During December 2nd, week 1, this book had a high sale of $60. That was the top weekly sale. 67 units were sold during that time frame. And the raws were going for 52. There were no grades at the time because it was a brand new book. As of today, the book is going for about $70. That was the last recorded sale. And there was 70 units since that 90-day period. The raws are going for $62. And the graded copies are now going for $194.09.8. The highest known value of this book is $208.09.8. And that was in February. And as of today, there's only 7 books in the census.
This is just so surprising to me, like thinking about books that have a limited print run like this, that, out of hundreds, millions of comic fans, there's only 500 of them. And it's impressive. Or 600, whatever the print run was.
Yeah, 500. The print run was 500. Well, 500.
Yeah.
Sorry. They say these numbers. We don't know the reality of it. We don't know how many really exist. We know that it's a low print run. That we know. But they announced 500. There may be 520. There may be 530. Who knows? But what is known is that there's 7 in the census. So as of today, this is the last time I checked it, there's only 7. So therefore, if you have a 9.8, it's solid. You can sell it quickly because there's only 7 people who have them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they are all 9.8s, by the way. So there you have it, guys. That was the number 1 book 90 days ago. Woo-hoo! Tell me what's your thoughts. Overall, these books, I think all of them have the potential to go up in value. I do believe that the Omega Men is going to dip a little bit, but then it's going to resurge. While Mark Spears still remains hot. The one that I think is going to probably still, I think it's the Monsters one, the Mary Jane cover. It's always going to be on demand. I think it's a book that will always be on demand because it's a popular cover. It's an homage. But I think that's the one that's out of these 3. My personal opinion, that's the one that's probably we might see some dips with it.
Yeah, it's easily recognizable as the homage. It has the cool trade dress, just like Amazing Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot to like about the cover, and it's very limited. So,
and there you have it, guys. That's your 30, 60, 90 look back. I hope you like it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, guys. We're moving well. We're moving good here. You know what I'm saying? Woohoo! Anyway, during that time, my boy Bobby De La Ghetto showed up showing some love for MJ. No love for us, man. He saw MJ. He was like, oh, that's my girl. I don't care if she's a vampire. She'll eat me. She'll suck my blood. I'm okay with that. So, would you allow a Mary Jane vampire suck your blood?
Am I being turned or just drained?
Yeah, no, whatever happens, man.
Oh, that's a gamble then.
It's a simple question, man. Would you?
I don't think so. I wouldn't take
I
the
feel
chance.
like Carrie. It's a simple question, man. Would you allow her to suck your blood? What about you guys in the chat? Would you allow her to suck?
Maybe little.
Just a little bit, man. She got to do the whole thing, man. Let's take the whole thing. Right? Who knows, right? We're going to talk about blood sucking later, though. There is a character that's coming out that is a bloodsucker. Actually, we got a couple of characters coming out that are bloodsuckers when we did the new comic books. But we did a poll 2 weeks ago. And the reason why we didn't do the poll because we got the announcement of Marvel DC, so we decided to do Creator Spotlight. And we decided to put the poll for this week. So we kept the poll running. And I'm just trying to say it. Love you too, bro. Love you too. So we did the poll and we asked the question. And let me go back to this poll because I completely forgot what the question was. I know it had something to do with iconic artists. Is that correct? Was that's what it was?
I think so.
It had something to do with some
like
iconic...
90s, maybe.
No, I don't think it was 90s based. That's how my brain functions. It's that. Okay. So these legends have defined the era with their unforgettable artwork, and we said iconic cover artists. Yeah. So the choices were Arthur Adams, Frank Miller, J. Scott Campbell, or Todd McFarlane. And the winner, by a landslide, my majority, with 54% of the votes. Well, let's go back before I even say it. At 11% of the votes was Frank Miller. Do you think it had something to do with his current stuff?
I think so, for sure,
right.
100%.
15% was J. Scott Campbell. We just talked about Mary Jane cover. So that one shocked me a little bit. I expected more. I expected more from this community with J. Scott Campbell. At 21% and coming in second place was Arthur Adams, which I'm happy that Arthur made Arthur was second place, but to me, he should have been first because he's Arthur Adams, and I'm going to get him in the show sooner or later. But with 54%, more than half chose the Todd father, Todd McFarlane. Wow.
Yep.
So, as promised, we need to do Creator Spotlight. Oh, there it is. Creator Spotlight. So, the one and only Todd father, Todd McFarlane. This was going to be a long one, Shane. Because I have to take stuff out. That's how long this one's going to be.
That's funny.
So before we even get started, what's your earliest thoughts of Todd McFarlane?
Well, the funny story, which I think I might have said on here before, maybe it was Wednesday, is I was a huge Spider-Man fan, but when ASM 297 came out, I remember flipping through it. I don't remember who the artist is, and just going, "This is so bad. I'm not buying any more of these." And then I thought, you know what? I'll give it one more issue, and that's it. If this is in the next issue, I'm not buying it. And 298 came out.
And your life was changed.
And my life was changed.
So during that time, I got into comics. And it wasn't because of Todd. It just so happens I got into comics the exact same time that Amazing Spider-Man was coming out. In fact, I got into comics when he was doing his run on Incredible Hulk. And we'll get to the book that we're going to get to, of course. And but my signal just went bad for a second. But I will say, when I saw his work, it was an immediate impact. I think what Todd brought to the game was a fresh look, a fresh perspective on how you draw a page. And one of the things about his approach to comics was he respected what came before him. He honestly does. And we'll talk about that when we get to one book specifically. But what he brought to the game was, I respect what came before me, but I have to leave a mark today. And damn it, did he leave a mark?
Yeah.
Well, and he still leaves a mark.
Like I can remember, Spider-Man, him going on to Spider-Man, especially that issue 300 cover, and even the interiors, just what he was doing with even the webs. It was a thing. Like, people talked about it in, Wizard and wherever you read stuff about comics, they were talking about that new style, and now that's the way everybody does it.
Yeah. So he brought something new to the game, and I'm looking forward to someone come in and kind of become that next guy. Right now, we haven't had it yet. It hasn't happened yet. Just like when they talk about Nirvana with rock music, and we need something new in this industry to kind of just slap us in the face. Mark Spears seems to be doing a little bit of that, but I think he's still a cover artist, where Todd was the whole thing.
Spears and Spider-Man.
Ooh, imagine. Ooh.
Now you got me thinking.
I know. So before we even move forward, got to say what's up to Wellbore. What's going on, Wellbore? Travis just showed up. It was because of Todd. We got the little CA for the Canadians. Yeah, that's right. Because fellow Canadian. Well, not fellow. I'm not Canadian. I'm as American as they come. But to you, he's one of you. He's one of your boys from your neck of the woods, right? All right, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the biography that is Todd McFarlane. So Todd McFarlane, a comic book creator, artist, and entrepreneur, became a household name in the late 80s with his work on Amazing Spider-Man for Marvel Comics. His dynamic art style and the co-creation of Venom made him one of the industry's top artists. In 1990, Todd McFarlane launched a new Spider-Man title, which sold over 2.5 million copies, and at that time held the record for just a few months before X-Men showed up.
Yeah.
Seeking more creative freedom, McFarlane co-founded Image Comics in 1992, where he introduced Spawn, a dark anti-hero from his childhood sketches. Spawn #1 sold 1.7 million copies, setting a record for an independent comic book, a record he still holds today. Right, so he didn't get the Spider-Man record. He didn't get to keep it, but he kept Spawn record, and I think he likes that one a little bit more.
Yeah.
In 1994, McFarlane launched McFarlane Toys, known for highly detailed action figures from Spawn, The Walking Dead, and Halo, as well as DC, Marvel, and you know it. He also produced the 1997 Spawn film and the HBO animated series Todd McFarlane's Spawn, which was awesome, by the way. I remember that.
I have it on DVD.
Oh, good. Though he stepped away from regular illustration, McFarlane remains a driving force behind Spawn, the longest-running creator-owned comic series. His influence reshaped the industry, championing creator rights and inspiring independent creators. You can learn more at the McFarlane.com. Learn more at McFarlane.com. Everybody's gonna drive me crazy. It's gonna drive me crazy all day. Everybody's all gonna say McFarlane, right? That's what that happens. McFarlane. All right, I'm trying with this one. I'm trying. I think that's why people chose him, because they just wanted me to say his name. Let's start off with some early work for Todd, because I know you guys are excited for this. Let's do the first one, and that is Weird War Tales 103. This book came out in 1981 for DC Comics. A high sale of this book is $156.09.6, and that was in August of 2023. Last sale of this book was just $9 at the very fun. That was in January. So the raws are going for $5 at a very good, while graded copies sell for about $156. There are 22 books in the census for this book. This is his first known published writing in a comic book via correspondence to DC's printed in the letters column. He was 19 years old at the time of release and had letters printed approximately 15 times throughout 81 to 83. Would you believe they printed so many of his letters? 15 is a lot.
Yeah.
You know, Chris keeps talking about his Transformers letter. Todd got him beat with 15 letters.
It's just surprising that for me, this is more of a interesting comic rather than a writing credit. Like, I'd rather have his first comic book writing credit, but this
His
is an
official
interesting
book, right?
Yeah, it's still
Yeah.
cool for sure. I
Yeah.
think it's neat. It's just
Now
not
here-
something, I would pick it up if it was, like
Yeah.
$10 like it is there. I would
Yeah.
grab that.
It has historic value. It's like Todd McFarlane. He's in the leather column, right? He's a fanboy at this time. And that's the thing that makes it so great, that he is a fanboy.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
exactly.
he's not this guy that's like he had some background history before being in comics. His goal was to be in comics from the very beginning. And now he gets to live that life. He's the biggest name in comics outside of Stan Lee. He's, that's who he is now.
Yeah.
And just so you guys can see it, there's two of the comics. There's the one from Weird War Tales. And here's the part that really stood out to me. You got the guy's full address up and running in the page. This is where Todd lived. He doesn't live there anymore. So,
Yeah.
Do you know this address? Is this address familiar? I know it's in Calgary. I know it's not
There's
that
probably
close to
people
you.
camped out at that place.
Imagine seeing this and he's like, oh, they got my address here? Like today, we would lose our mind if you put our address in there.
Yeah.
Right? And look at him putting his information, his 2 cents on the book. Look at it. Weird War 98 was a good issue, primarily to the 17-page Sphinx walks. I love it. He's nerding out.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Let's take a look at our next book. The Comics Journal 84. This came out in 1983 for Fantagraphics. A high sale of this book was $253 raw. That was in December 2022. Last sale of this book was $50 at a no grade, and that was in January. The raws are going for approximately $47 fine. Graded copies are going for $236. This is a magazine-sized book. The CGC census count of this book is 19. There's only 19 graded of this book, and it features his first artwork by Todd McFarlane in a letters column of a comic-related publication. So this is a fanzine. The circulation of this fanzine is approximately 11,000 copies. How do you feel about this one? It may not be, what's the word? It's not official, but it's his unofficial first printed art page.
Yeah, this is one of those, circumstances where, like the New Mutants or Man Thing, their first appearance is in a magazine style, and then later on they get their first comic book appearance. But hey, this is again, he's sending in his personal art, and it's his art, and it's published.
And do you know who was the character he drew? Do you remember? I know you saw it, but can you?
I did see it. I'm trying to remember. No, I don't remember off the top of my head.
All right. So the first, he drew a popular character, and that was Batman. And there, and you can see it already. Look at the cape. Look at the work on the cape. You see it. That is cool.
Yeah.
These are the types of books that I would love to have, just to take it to a convention to have them signed.
Yeah, this is one that this is a conversation starter. I mean, how many times is he going to sign ASM 300? But something like this, you're going to have a conversation about this 100%.
Absolutely, and it's going to be something that he's going to open it up, look at it. He's going to pull a Chris Claremont.
Yeah,
as we call it. I was 16 when My Little was published. Good for you, Elbor. All right, let's take a look at our next book. Now we're talking about the official. Coyote 11. This book came out in 1985 for Epic Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book is $695 at 9.8. That was in August of 2022. $130 is the last sale of this book, and that was on 9.4, and that was on February 14th on Valentine's Day. The raws are going for about $64 near mint, while graded copies go for about $119 at a 9.6. The census count is 772 copies. And this is his first interior pages. What's your thoughts?
This is a book that I would try to find for sure.
Mm-hmm.
This is like first interior artwork. Like you're getting paid to do what you love to do. And yeah, I would, and for $64, I mean, I think that's a steal.
$64 for his first book. It happens to be a Marvel comic. It's not Marvel, mainstream. It's Epic, so it's like indie Marvel or something like that, like Fox Searchlight or something like that. Coyote, such an interesting book.
Well, it just kind of shows you that at the time, like obviously he was brand new, so they're not going to give him Spider-Man. It's not like today.
Yeah, of
where
course.
they'll just throw anybody on your biggest book. You you got whatever was left over.
You had to earn it.
We're giving you Coyote.
Well, it is public knowledge that he had so many tries. He submitted so many times, and he kept all the letters. He still had the letter. I got to see the original letter that they send him, where they said, "Hey, you have something going on here. Keep up the good work, but unfortunately, you're not ready for the big time." I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And it made him want to do it more. I think that's the cool thing about it. So, but he finally got to do his first published work, and that's Coyote 11. So the fanboy is now the artist. So that's pretty cool. Our next book, Infinity Inc. 14. This book came out in 1985 for DC Comics. A high sale of this book is $500 at 9.8, and that was in August of 2021. The last sale of this book was $35 at a very fine, and that was in January. The book at a raw goes for $30, very fine, while graded copies goes for $106 at 9.8. The census count for this book is at 466 copies. This is his first published cover art.
I say it every week, Izzy. So you give me a list. I already told you from the Marvel and DC. I have a giant order coming in of almost all of those books. And this one, $106 for 9.8 is a steal, in my opinion, because he is so popular that why wouldn't, if you're a Todd fan, you want to own his first published cover art? And that is something that, as opposed to the Coyote book, if you get it graded, you're done unless you make a photocopy or a scan of it to be able to see it. Whereas this, it's the cover art. That's what you're getting. So I'm going to be looking for this book for sure.
It's a cool cover too. It looks really good. It's like this is just a sign of things to come.
Yeah, and you can see that he's starting, right? This is the beginning.
Like there's things that you could immediately know is kind of like almost like signature look, like the way he does the hand, or he likes to do Kirby Crackle. I notice, but his signatures has always been what he does with capes, and you could see it here with the cape, happening already. So it's just cool looking at this stuff.
Yeah.
Also, there was a little note by Roy Thomas, and this was the image that he did. Now, this one, not so great.
Again, it's the beginning, right? You can see, like knowing where he's at now, that this is kind of the start. The physical form is there. Everything is kind of beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Our next book is All-Star Squadron 47. This book came out in 1985 for DC Comics. High sale of this book is at $695 at 9.8. That was in May of 2022. The last sale of this book was $17 as a good. The raws are going for about $29, very fine, while graded copies are being sold for $73 and 9.6. There's 394 copies in the census, and this is just an origin of Dr. Fate, but it is one of his earlier works. And again, you're starting to see that style come out in Todd's way. Again, the way he's drawing these characters, there is something happening here. And again, the hands and the capes, it's all there.
Yeah, and I didn't know about this book. I love Dr. Fate. I didn't know that this was so. Again, this is another one I'm going to be looking for, especially since I think from the title or from the top of it, it looks like he does the interiors as well of this. So that'll be a good book for me to pick up. Yeah, I love the cover.
It is a cool cover. I like it too. All right, let's take a look at our next book. And we're going back to Marvel with Coyote 13, 1985. That's from Epic Marvel. The high sale of this book is $250 and at a 9.8. That was January of 2021. The last sale of this book was $28 at a fine in February. And the raws are going for about $21 near mint, while graded copies are going for $145 and 9.6. The census count has 179 books. This is his first cover art for Marvel under the Epic Comics imprint. However, he did not do the full page. He only did the page with the Scorpio Rose character, which is that female in the corner there. So in Marvel, he doesn't even get the full cover. He gets a quarter of the cover.
Like, how does this even happen? How do they decide to do this? Like, it'd be interesting to hear. Would be another great one to have for a signature, right? Because you're going to get the story on what happened with this book, like how they decided to just cut out a corner of it and say, "Here, Todd, draw a face."
Yeah, and he put his signature in it, so the signature's there.
Yeah.
So if you see, it's kind of hard to see it; it's so small, but you can see the McFarlane's writings there. So I thought that was funny, but the fact that it's like, okay, we're gonna give you a cover. It's like, great, I get to do a cover.
Yes.
You get 1/4 of the cover, okay? Yeah. Don't worry about it. Chances are it's probably an interior that they decided to put in the front. Why they did it beats me. Is there something going on in that corner that we don't know about?
Yeah, just a very strange decision for sure.
Right. Let's take a look at our next book, and that's Spitfire and the Troubleshooters, number 4. Yeah, I know. 1986 from Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book was $15 at a raw. That was in January of 2023. Last sale of this book was $7 at a fine. And that's what the fair market value is for a fine. There are no graded copies that were sold. However, there's 8 in existence in the census. This is also early interior artwork by Todd McFarlane for New Universe imprint. At this point, Todd is like, we're going to give you some books. And they keep giving him these books of characters no one knows, no one cares about. And he's like, sure, I'm in comics.
Yeah, like I just get the impression, and I don't know the exact details, especially of this one, but you get the impression that it's a different attitude than today. Again, talking a little bit about it, like they give him work, he's happy to work, and he's just going to do his best with Spitfire and the Troubleshooters. Like he's going, what? Like Spitfire, like what? But he just does his thing, and I think that really built up his work ethic with these companies so that they gave him the bigger titles. I think it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Spitfire. Who remembers Spitfire?
No one. No one, Izzy. Especially Spitfire number 4. No one.
I made it to 4 issues, right? You know what I mean? Oh my goodness. Okay. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay. Let's go to our next book. Here's a good one. Daredevil 241. This came out in 1986 from Marvel Comics. A high sale of this book is $432,9.8, and that was September of 2022. Last sale of this book was $5 at a fine, and that was in February. The book in itself, the raws are going for $5 for fine, while 9.8s go for $190. Currently, there's only 192 copies in the census. This is his first interior art at Marvel proper. This is a dollar bin book that I've seen numerous times when I go to conventions. In fact, I have a copy of this book. It's written by Frank Miller, and that's a Mike Zeck cover.
Yeah.
Todd did the interiors for this book, and it's kind of odd that it's so affordable.
I know, and I think it's just mainly because it's interiors, so people don't associate his name with the interiors, right?
Mm-hmm. But he's doing the interiors. It's written by Frank Miller, and it has a cover by Mike Zeck.
Yeah.
It's like a no-brainer to have.
Another one on my list that I'll be looking for.
Yeah. And I have this book. I remember picking it up. I was like, hey, look, this is a Todd McFarlane. No one knows about it. I remember picking it up and saying that. All right. Let's take a look at our next book. Incredible Hulk 330. This is the start. This is what I say is the start of it all. This book came out in 1987 from Marvel Comics. A high sale goes for $348 at 9.8. That was in June of 2023. The last sale was $2 at a no grade. And the fair market value is $16 at very fine for Raws, $109 for 9.8. Currently, there's 1,020 copies of this book in the CGC census, and this is the first cover art on a made Marvel title by Todd McFarlane. So where the other one was his first interior on the Marvel proper, this is his first proper cover in a Marvel comic.
Wonder where he's got his signature on that one. I don't see it like in the white where it would usually be.
It's a cover to me that doesn't look too much like a Todd McFarlane.
Yeah. Again, you know, you're in the early stages. Like, I don't know how many years he's been in this, but I know he accelerated pretty fast. So this is, you know, he hasn't found his own style yet. I think he would say that this is like based on another artist's style type of thing.
And there is some anatomy issues that I see in this book. When I look at this cover, there's some stuff that I see that the anatomy is a little off in certain places. Like if you look at that one character, Black Slamps is holding on the left-hand side with the, I guess you could say the orangey shirt. His arms looks just a little too short. The leg on the other man that's holding up, like, where's the rest of his leg? So the foreshadowing's a little off there. However, you know, it was a different time. We didn't have the tools we have today for when it comes to perspective and things like that. So he was basing it off of what he could do.
Yeah.
And the cover itself is fine. It's just not a wow cover. You know what I mean?
Yep.
All right. Got to say what's up to JSS Brooklyn. What's going on, my man? All right. We did say what's up to DVH, but he's saying what's up to Wellbar, so we got to give him some love too. All right. Let's take a look at our next book. Detective Comics 576. This came out in 1987 for DC Comics. A high sale of this book was $388 at a 9.9, but that was all the way back in 2011. The last sale of this book was $13 at very good. The fair market value of these books are $24 at very fine and $166 at a 9.8 for graded. There's currently 1,105 copies of this book in the census, and this is the first Batman cover done by Todd McFarlane.
I love this cover, and this I was buying when it was hitting the stands. I kind of got into Batman more so on year one, and then it just carried over into this. Yeah, I love it, and you can definitely see more of his style in this cover for sure.
Yeah, and we're starting to see the Todd we know and love here, right? The crazy cape, the bombastic, you know, foreshadowing and things like that. So it's happening. It's definitely happening. It's coming to fruition here. You know, and it is a standout cover. You got Batman holding a gun. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at our next book. Here's one that a lot of people don't know about, but it's very significant. That's Amazing Heroes 131. This is a fanzine Came out in 1987 for Fantagraphics. A high sale of this book was $2,300 and 9.8, and that was in 2022 of August. Last sale of this book was $40 at a no grade. That was December of last year. The fair market value of this book is $66 at a fine, while 9.0 goes for $99. There's only 96 copies in the census, and this is where we get our first peak of Venom.
I remember seeing this book, and because it's just such a weird cover, like Grendel is stealing a picture of Space Ghost and a monkey. Like,
yeah, you're right.
Just so strange, but you know, you really got an idea from the preview of where he was going for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then this is where we get our first appearance, our real first time we get to see Venom.
Yeah, and it's all there. I mean, the webs are there.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you everything. Like that is his classic depiction of Venom for sure.
Mm-hmm. And now Todd is becoming that superstar artist. It's starting to happen, right? Yeah. Because our next book is Incredible Hulk 340. This came out in 1987 from Marvel Comics. 9.8. The high sale for 9.8 was $3,612. And that was in May of 2023. The last sale of this book, huge dip to tell you the truth, was $1,175. And that was in March. The raws are going for $146 at a very fine, while 9.6 is the average, and those go for $425. There's 14,272 copies of this book in the census. It's a count that keeps going up, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But this is his first in many iconic covers.
Yeah. I have this book. It's marked to go for grading, and it's one of the ones that I would keep and enjoy because I love this cover. It's classic. There's a really great video. Todd, obviously super busy. He hadn't seen the scene in Deadpool and Wolverine that this is inspired from. And it's very interesting to watch his reaction. If you Google it, I'm sure you'll find it. But it was funny to listen to him.
He critiques it too. I seen the video. He critiques it's a Comic Tom video, right? He critiques
it. Yeah, exactly. It's Comic Tom video.
So earlier I told you that I was getting into comics when Todd McFarlane was starting to become a superstar artist. My very first comic book was an X Factor. No, it wasn't X Factor. I take that back. It was a Marvel Tales. It was Marvel Tales, and I go back to the comic book shop. I didn't go to a comic book shop. I went to a newsstand. And in the newsstand, I saw a book, and it was this book. I picked it up, and I bought it. And it's the second comic book I've ever owned. What a great number 2.
Yeah, it just tells you the power of this cover. Like at the time, he was doing Spider-Man, but I did not read Hulk comics at all. But when you see this cover, just like you said, it's like, yep, I'm going to buy this. Like, because it was what, at this time, they were $1.25 or 75 cents?
75 cents.
Yeah.
I got this book for 75 cents. And look what it's going for at a high.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This
I
is
think
one
I
of
got
those
a good investment.
Yeah, this is one of those ones that I'm sure there's people sending in piles of raw ones looking for that 99.
Mm-hmm. This is a book, to me, that will stand the test of time.
Yeah.
It's a book that is, everybody wants it. Everybody desires it. It is one of the greatest covers ever made. Obviously, it's been homaged a lot. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
I 100% agree.
Okay. I got to say what's up to Mark. What's up, Mark? How you doing, my man? And Nerdy Geek, he got to get yourself a copy. I'm happy I have my copy. And mine's, as of right now, my copy is double signed. It's signed by Peter David and Bob Whitecheck. I'm holding out for Todd to sign it. And there's a placement for Todd already.
Is it
which
right
is
on
perfect.
Wolverine's head?
So over Wolverine's head is Peter David and Bob Wycheck. Todd is going to get the trade dress.
Oh, that's nice.
So you could have artist, writer, inker. And then that sucker's going for JSA authentication. I can't wait to send that book. So, okay. Let's take a look at our next book. Amazing Spider-Man 298. This came out in 1987 from Marvel Comics. The high of this book is $1,050 at 9.8, and that was in May of 2021. The last sale of this book was $172 at 9.6. The fair market value of this book is $84 at a very fine, while the graded copy goes for $180 at a 9.6. This also has a high census count with 11,302 copies. Another book that I picked up early when I was a kid. I don't have it anymore, unfortunately, but it features the first cameo appearance of Venom creeping over Eddie Brock's hands and the first cover art by Todd McFarlane on a Spider-Man cover. So this is his first Spider-Man.
Oh, interesting. Didn't know that bit. But the census count is going to be up by 1 because mine is at CGC right now.
That's awesome. All right, let's take a look at what the cameo was. And that's what it was. Now, would you call this a cameo or first appearance?
That's a cameo.
So here, we're going to talk a little bit about the build-up to Venom. So 298, Todd comes in, and at this point, we already know what's going to happen, right? So he has to know that we're getting to a point that Spider-Man's going to get his own costume, and we're going to create this character called Venom, right? So Todd's involved in that process. So they're building up to it, which is something that I don't think comics do as much as they used to.
No.
We're building up to this moment, right? Because we're getting ready for 300. We know 300 is a big deal. Going into this, you're looking at this and you're seeing this character form, and you know what the black costume looks like. And you see the hands, because the hands are obvious. You got the little white box, which I never understood why they did that in the first place, but it worked out, especially now. What are your thoughts looking at this as a fan?
Well, this was an awesome build-up, and it's what comics are all about to me, because there was so many when he got the black costume and all of the buildup that they did of, you know, him starting to go out at night because the symbiote was taking him out on his own, and he was always tired and he didn't know why, but all the readers knew why.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Kurt Connors, you know, Dr. Connors trying to help him by analyzing it and telling him that, you know, that he needs to get rid of it, essentially. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Fantastic, and then the development of the sonic weapon and all that stuff was done over, you know, so many issues. And it was just awesome to see that. I wish they did more of that stuff today, but I loved it. I loved the build-up. I thought it was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that build-up with the next book, and that is Amazing Spider-Man 299. This also came out in 1987 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book is $1,520 at 9.8. That was in December of 2022. The last sale of this book was $72 at a very fine, and that was in January. This also happens to be the fair market value of the book, and a 9.6 goes for $172. This book also has a high census count of 10,353 copies. This is considered the second cameo appearance of Venom. However, Todd himself explains in an interview that he considers this the first full appearance of Venom. Do you agree or disagree?
I think it is, and you can really see that now, especially based on this cover, that he's in his own style now. Like, he's left behind, you know, any kind of influence from other artists, and he's taken over and he's doing his own thing.
Mm-hmm. He's doing things with Spider-Man that no one has really done before, where they have Spider-Man swing, but he decides to be a little more exaggerative with his style. Yes, he's toying with the anatomy.
Yeah.
At this point he understands anatomy, and he understands it enough that he could play against it now, because no normal man could do the things that Spider-Man could do, especially with this kind of pose. But when you look at it, you can't really do this pose in reality. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But because we're at this level now where he could toy with anatomy now, and he understands anatomy a lot better, he could start doing it. And we're seeing Spider-Man move in ways we've never seen it done before. And quite frankly, it revolutionized the character and the way people interpret Spider-Man, which wasn't done before, especially with the guys that came before him. You know, you had John Romita, senior and junior work on it. And of course, you got Ditko working. He's taking Spider-Man almost back to Ditko style, but at the same time, he's elevating it to a different level. He's evolutionizing Spider-Man.
Yeah, I agree. And the other artists were all great. They drew him kind of more like actually like a person would look. Mm-hmm. Whereas Todd, made a conscious decision. Hey, this guy like can bend around all over the place. Like I'm gonna lean into that.
He turned him into a contortionist.
Yeah,
pretty much, right? And when we talk about the cameo, right? You said yes. You would consider this the first full appearance. Let's take a look at it. This is the final page, and we do get a full image of Venom.
Yeah, I mean, I know that in this day and age where it's all about kind of inflating the key status of some books, you get the first cameo, second cameo, third cameo, mm-hmm. And all of that. But I like to try to keep it simpler than that. And to me, like the first where he shows his hand, that's a cameo. This one, he's there, he talks, it says his name. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the full character.
That's confirmation.
Yeah.
It's very horror-like as well, where Mary Jane's looking at this character who she thinks is Spider. She thinks it's Peter.
Yeah.
Because the first image is you got the eyes, you got the logo. But then as you could easily tell he creeps in and you see the smile where she's like, wait a minute, something's wrong. I've never seen Peter smile this way.
It was just done so well, like this, the way it was written, because Brock knows everything about Peter, mm-hmm. and they leaned into that, and they did it so well. Like this was just such a great time in ASM. Like I love this era of comics.
Yeah, and we're getting ready. We're getting pumped up. It's time for the next book, and Joe wants to let everyone know he's bringing Spider Sexy back. We're getting ready. $299 is out. Now we're getting $300. And there it is. Spider-Man 300. This book came out in 1987 from Marvel Comics. A high sale was $25,250. And that was at a 9.9 February of 2020. The last sale of this book was $331 at a very fine. And the raws are going for $508 near mint. While the graded is going for $830 at 9.6. This book is considered to be one of the highest in the CGC census count, with 38,148 copies. This is what we call now the first full appearance of Venom, according to everyone else.
Yeah. And again, having this come out, like my copy is the one I picked up off the rack when this first came out, mm-hmm. that I read and loved. So like, this is a total classic for
mm-hmm.
sure.
Yeah. I think you can see my copy is right there. And just like you, it's the copy I picked up at the newsstand when I got it as a kid. It is a mess of a comic, and my copy is a low grade because it's the copy I owned since I was young. I'm fine with that because it has some historic value for me personally.
Yeah, exactly.
So really stoked about it. What can be said about this comic that hasn't been said before? It is I have to say, it is the most homage comic of all time.
It's got to be up there for sure.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you see this 300 all over the place. It's the 25th anniversary issue. It is a double size issue as well. A lot of people forget about that. But the one thing that really got to me about this issue, and I have to go back to look at the interiors because it's a very long time since I've seen the interiors. I really don't know exactly. Venom only lasts for one issue. It's not a 6-issue story arc. It's not a 3-issue story arc. It is a build up in 2 issues, and then we're going to get into the main event in 1 issue. Granted, the 1 issue is a double size issue, so it's technically like doing 2 issues. But he didn't get a long arc.
Well, and that's the thing, like, again, not to harp on today as opposed to back then, but Marvel had people in charge that, you know, thought further in advance than 6 issues in a trade paperback so they could push them out. You know, this is something that, you know, when they had their yearly story building brain sessions, you know what we're going to do with Venom? We're going to introduce him, and then he'll come back in, you know, 16, 18 issues, and this is the plan. Like, this is where we're going in the next 2 years type of thing. Just so awesome to be a reader back then, and it's so cool that people can enjoy this stuff still, because it is really classic comics for sure.
I think one of the things about Venom during this time that was really cool was you didn't get too much of him. He wasn't overexposed. You got him on this issue, which is 300. We're not going to see him again for another 16 issues. Right? So you're talking about a full more than a year, right?
Yeah.
If you think about 16 issues, they're talking about a year and a couple of months. So you don't see him again afterwards. And that's how comics were, where they get the storyline, they get the character, and then you get another character, and you get another character that follows that one. This is one of those books, to me, it's like, it's a no-brainer. You know, it's an anniversary issue. You got 300 issues of Spider-Man, which is amazing. Literally amazing, pun intended. And you have a character who, this character's got to mean something. And he, you know, this is considered the Copper Age book of that time, right? Since this falls under Copper Age, so this has got to be the number 1 Copper Age book. I can't think of another book that tops this book.
Yeah, I can't either.
So that's Amazing Spider-Man 300. Let's take a look at our next book. The very next book, Amazing Spider-Man 301. This book came out just a month later from Marvel Comics. A high sale of this book was $2,600 at a 9.8, and that was in June of 2023. The last sale of this book was $36 at a no grade. The raws are going for $66 that are very fine, while graded copies are going for $248 at 9.6. The census count of this book is 7,099 books. This is the first homage cover of Amazing Spider-Man 300. I just love how Todd's like forward thinking, and he's like, I'm gonna homage myself.
Yeah. And I wonder if they note that on the slab. I doubt it, but that would be hilarious if they did.
It's the same cover. The only difference is now we got rid of the 300s. We put a nice little white background, and we'll put him in his classic red and blue trunks to show that he's back. But what's different is that his eyes are bigger.
Interesting.
The same cover. I like. Did he just draw over it?
I think so. I would guess, yeah.
Right? Because it's the same pose. Nothing's different about it.
Might even done this one first.
Yeah. So, yeah, he might have done this one first. Who knows? That's a good question. But then I think they kind of heard it by putting Silver Sable was back. Nothing against Silver Sable.
Yeah.
I would have liked it if it just would have been blanked.
Yeah.
You know, I don't mind a trade dress. I'm okay with the trade dress, but all this and you're telling me Silver Sable's back? Heck, no! The red and blue costume's back. That's what's more important to me.
Yeah.
classic cover, man. I love it. Next book is Incredible Hulk 345. This also came out in 1987 from Marvel Comics. High sale of this book was $1,275 at 9.8, and that was in May of 2021 as well. $150 and at a 9.6 was the last sale of this book. Raws are going for $27. They're very fine, while graded copies of this book go for $400 and 9.8. There's only 1,080 copies of this book in the census. I think that's actually a low number.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I have this one as well, and I actually had it out to be graded in this next
Mm-hmm.
round, but it just didn't make the cut condition-wise
Mm-hmm.
for value. Like I think it would probably get maybe an 8.5 or a 9, so it just didn't seem to make sense to do that.
Mm-hmm. Now, we talk a lot about Todd's Spider-Man, but what's your thoughts on his Hulk?
Well, from someone that didn't buy Hulk, it got me to buy Hulk comics. I just thought it was like this image, just like all the crazy hatching in his face and everything is just, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I like that they went with the Gray Hulk here, where Todd is very notorious for doing the other version of a character. You ever notice he started with Spider-Man Black, and he also started with Hulk, Gray Hulk. His Hulk is very interesting because, like we said, he's doing the Gray Hulk. He's doing the Joe Fix-It. Even though I don't think he's Joe Fix-It at this point. And granted, I could easily see this Hulk in green as well. I could see it. He draws him in the point that it looks, if you shade him green, it looks fine. But he's drawing the Hulk in such a way that he makes him humongous. Again, he knows how to exaggerate.
Yeah, for sure.
He's
And
so
I love
good at it.
The crumbled letters on the bottom of it. It's just great idea.
Yeah, it's an homage to Neil Adams and X-Men as well in a certain way. And they like they say in the chat, this became a statue because it's that good. Awesome cover. Our next book, another iconic book, Batman 423. This came out in 1988 for DC Comics. High sale of this book is $3,200 at a 9.8. That was September of 2022. The last sale of this book was $125. Very good. That was in March. The Raws are going for $184 at near mint, while 9.6 goes for $442. There's 5,717 copies in the census. This is probably the most iconic Batman cover next to Frank Miller's Dark Knight Return.
Yeah, I mean, again, just so good. And just, like you said, and it goes with the theme of his classic covers, right? Very simple backgrounds, just usually the one character on them. And this one does it. And I love the signature with the bat around it too. That's awesome.
Yeah. Here's some fun stuff about this cover. This cover has several coloring errors. All right. There's two coloring errors in this book. Do you know what they are?
Well, the one is the moon. Because it's missed. You can see the line in the background, but it's not filled in.
Yeah.
Yellow,
So
anyway.
Right. So they failed to fill that part. But do you see what the second one is? That one's a little harder.
Yeah, I think the other one, it has to do with the female character, but I don't know. For sure.
It's not. It actually isn't. If you look at the shoulder, if you look at Batman's shoulder, the shoulder that's in the background, and you look at his head where his eyes are, you have a white space there. That should have been yellow.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to color mine in, so it's right.
Imagine. So what's funny is in what they did was he did manage to color correct it for the future facsimile editions. So they did color correct it.
So is that
I personally like it.
Then?
What was that?
Does that technically make it a new cover then?
Does it really matter? This is a book that I think the third printing is probably the most expensive one. because it's a third printing and it's a lower print run. This is one of the books that are in my that's in my bucket list. I want this book.
Yeah, this is also in my pile to go for grading.
Mm-hmm. This is one I want. I don't want a facsimile. I don't want a third printing or a second printing. I want first printing of this book. And if I get this book at $125, you bet your bottom dollar it's going to be mine. So
when I get mine back after I send it, I'll send you a picture of it.
I think I have enough pictures. You're a great friend, man. You're a great friend.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at our next book. What the? Number 3. Remember we did this last week? I said I have to say it that way. This came out in 1988 from Marvel Comics. The high sale of this book was $13 raw, and that was in December of 2022. Last sale of this book was $8. Very fine. The raws are going for $4. There are no census sales. However, there's 24 copies of this book in the census. This features a 2-page story titled The Birth of a Hero by Todd McFarlane, parodying the Batman. Now, last week, we literally talked about this book last week.
Yep.
Right? This week, I'm going to show you the pages. And there you have them. It's the Bat with a hyphen, man.
Yeah. Because he has a bat.
But if you notice, there's a Robin in the background, and he's known as Robert, the Bat Boy. His name is Robert.
I love it.
How is it that no one has this book?
I know. And I love the little note that's pinned to it at the bottom.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that they made this happen.
Yeah. I'm shocked that no one got sued.
Especially with the Batman, hyphen or not, because the original Batman was hyphened. And at this time, it was still considered, he was still the, what's the word? Oh my goodness, the trademark, the copyright of Batman still existed. So the rights still exist in the book. So therefore, Batman with a hyphen still is owned by DC Comics at this time.
Yeah.
So how did they not get in trouble for doing this? Beats me.
And
now the parody I get, the parody I can understand because it's a parody and they could get away with it, but to clearly say Batman makes it hard. No, I think they don't even name the Joker. It's the Joker. It's not a you know what I mean? So there you have it. It's just a nice little cool thing to have, man. A book that I want to have. I will eventually own that book.
Yeah, I looked for it, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I will have that book one day. Probably sometime this year. All right, let's take a look at our next book. Going back to Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 312. This book came out in 1989 from Marvel Comics. A high sale of this book was $2,800 at 9.9, and that was January of this year. However, the last sale of this book was $8 at a very good. The raws are going for $15 near mint, while 9.8 goes for $159. What a disparaging difference, right? The census count has only 3,031 copies. This is a battle of Green Goblin versus Hobgoblin done by Todd McFarlane. But the most significant thing is this is where we get the first appearance of the Skrull. And that's the Todd McFarlane Skrull that he uses for his signature moving forward.
Now, do you remember when these were coming out that newsstands were still fairly common and, direct copy? It was probably about 50-50 almost. Mm-hmm. And I can specifically remember just wanting these because of his little box drawing.
Oh, he made them famous.
Yeah.
He decided, hey, I'm going to do something with these boxes instead of them putting just a regular Spider-Man head or something like that. It made him special.
Yeah.
that you got some little artwork in the box. And I thought that was pretty cool. I just love how he somehow managed to get Spider-Man into this page, even though the focus is Green Goblin and Hobgoblin.
Yeah, I love this cover. I just think it's great.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of people don't even realize about the Green Goblin cover. Like he did Green Goblin for a little while. Granted, it's not Norman Osborn. This version of Green Goblin is a different. It's the third Green Goblin from what I remember, something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
I'm not even sure if it's Harry or not, but it's definitely not Norman.
No.
At this time, Norman's been dead. So, but it's cool looking at it, and look at his version of Green Goblin, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right. Okay, let's take a look at our next book, and that's Amazing Spider-Man 315. This book came out in 1989 as well from Marvel. A high sale of this book is $154.09.8. That was in December of 2022. The last sale of this book was also $154, and that was in February. Near Mint are going for $27, while the graded copy goes for $134 at a 9.8. There's 3,385 copies in the census. This is the second appearance of Venom, not full, but it's his first cover appearance. Granted, it's just his head.
Yeah, this one always makes me laugh because it's like the exceptions to the rules that you would have to come up with if you were the person making the appearance rules at CGC. I mean, is Venom on the cover of this? Meh, he is, but it's his head.
But it's to the point where Hydro Man is not that important of a character. And, and you're like, Venom's coming! Venom's coming back! It's like, it's clear that this is added him there just to let people know Venom's coming back, guys.
Yeah.
But it is funny. I think this is such a funny cover. It's not the first time, especially during this time, that this happens. So a lot of people don't know Jubilee's first appearance is exactly the same way. Her first cover appearance, it's just her head.
Yeah.
On an X-Men annual. I always forget the number. But this one's fun. I love this book. But the one that I really love is 316. Woohoo! A 9.9 sold for $5,000. That's the high sale in May of 2019. The last sale of this book was $113 at a fine. The fair market value of this book is $123 at a very fine, while 9.8 goes for $402. There's 12,503 copies of this book in the census. This is considered to be the third appearance of Venom, but it's his first full cover appearance.
And you know what? It's almost like I would love to ask Todd if he did that on purpose, because do a tiny little head and have people talking, oh, we want more. And then bam, you get this as a cover. I love this cover. Great.
And yet cover. Another iconic cover.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So good. Another book that's in my collection that I have, mine is actually signed by Todd. This is another book. When I read it, it's a book that I love to go back and look at the pages. Unfortunately, I got it slabbed now, but I would like to get, sooner or later, I'll probably get a reprint. I don't care what you call them. Sooner or later, I'm gonna grab a reprint just because I love the interiors of this book.
Yeah.
The interiors of this book is so good because there was something that Todd did at this time where he was able to clarify the way he does characters. I think his art style got significantly better, right? He had freedom to do what he wanted to do because he was the highest selling book at the time. And you could clearly tell he started drawing Spider-Man differently than when he first started. When he first started, you could clearly see the way he draws Spider-Man's head, that it's a little different. But now there's like more defined Spider-Man head that's more to the way he was doing it. He made Spider-Man look taller, if that's something that was a big deal. But but he made him taller, but still made him smaller than Venom. And when this book came out, and this was a 2-issue arc, just like pretty much Amazing 300 was, because it's since double page, right? Double size. I still don't understand why you didn't give me more Venom. You didn't make it longer, but what I got was good. And I clearly was scared for Spider-Man when I was reading these comics. Like, how the hell he's going to get out of this character?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, you can't sense him. He knows everything about you. Like, how is he going to get out of this? Yeah.
And I've spoken about this in other streams. When Black Cat shows up, Venom destroys her in this story, to the point that I don't think they could do that today.
Yeah.
Like, that's just brutal what he does to her. So, great book. Awesome book. One of my favorites. Let's move on to Amazing Spider-Man 328. This came out in 1989. High sale of this book is $432.09.8, and that was in April 2022. Last sale of this book was $30 near mint. The raws are going for $25 near mint, while graded copies go for $158. The census count has 4,401 copies. This is his last Amazing Spider-Man title before he'll be moving forward to Spider-Man proper. What's important about this cover, it features the 2 characters that he redefined in Marvel.
And I loved this storyline where he got like cosmic powers. I thought it was so cool to take, like, back when this was coming out, that you took Spider-Man, who you knew so well, and then all of a sudden he has this crazy superpowers. It just was really cool.
Yeah, and I love how, he managed to do this shot with the Hulk. And I just noticed now the Hulk has a green tongue.
Yeah.
But he's grabbing the Hulk from his crotch. So I must have drawn this page 1,000 times.
Yeah.
As a kid.
This is a good one. Doesn't he like punch him right into orbit or something?
Something like that. It's just so cool. And I love the corner box with just the Hulk's, like, kind of like his brow.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
good.
Mm-hmm. Spider-Man #1. This came out in 1990 from Marvel Comics. A high sale of a number 10. Sold for $5,459. That was in November 2022. Last sale of this book was $8 at a fine. We're also going for $12 near mint, while a 9.8 goes for $82. There's currently 17,070 copies in the census. This is, at the time, was considered the highest selling comic book, and then it was overthrown by Jim Lee's X-Men. But here's something that you may not know. After a meeting with a man with PTSD who carried a Felix the Cat doll, Todd McFarlane began including Felix the Cat in his Spider-Man art after the man agreed to read the comics if Felix appeared in them. So, and I've actually heard from Todd himself when I remember that signature I was telling you I had that was a show I went to and Todd was signing. And my best friend was, at the time, he told him, well, not at the time, he's still my best friend today. He told him, he said, I have a question for you. It's like, why is Felix the Cat in the comics? So moving forward, Felix the Cat is in every Spider-Man book moving forward. And part of that reason was because of this situation where he told this guy, why don't you read comics? And he says, well, I like Felix the Cat. So he said, okay, I'll put Felix the Cat in the comic books. And the idea is that Felix the Cat is somewhat of a Where's Waldo in all these books. So you have to look for him. He doesn't just show up. He's been planted within the book. So in every single issue, you will see Felix the Cat, which I think was a cool little thing that Todd would do. He was really good at doing Easter eggs, and this was one of those cool Easter eggs.
Yeah. Do you remember the kind of the media coverage of this, like, coming out? Like, Todd took a lot of flack for the writing
Mhm.
Like just that, oh, he's a great artist, but why is he writing like he shouldn't be writing? And I remember there was a lot of talk about that. And I like this story. I had no problem with it. It was a great run for sure. I don't remember how many issues he did exactly, but
Mhm.
it's awesome.
Yeah, I think he did take a lot of critique for his writing style, because it was amateurish. And to be completely honest, this is his first writing gig,
Yeah.
like his first full-fledged writing gig. So of course you can't expect him to be perfect. Um, but Marvel wanted to keep him so badly that they were willing to let him write it. I would have had someone, assist him in the writing, at least, somewhat. But they wanted to give it to him, and they gave it to him. I don't know the full extent of how he was able to do it. He wasn't alone, because Rob Liefeld also got writing duties for his book. The only one that did it was Jim Lee, because Chris Claremont was a big enough character, and I think Jim Lee would have probably be a better writer than the other two. My
Yeah,
personal thoughts.
maybe.
Because you could have easily left Chris Claremont in Uncanny, no problem. Which I think he did, but they gave it to John Byrne, no less.
Yeah.
Which was crazy when you think about it now. But hey, it is what it is. This is an iconic book. Obviously, a 10.0 exists. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about the variants, right? So the book sold 2.5 million copies. However, there are tons of variants for this book. When this book came out, there was a platinum edition, there was a gold edition, but there was also eras as well. Let's take a look first at the prices for the platinum, right? So a platinum sold for $5,700 at a 9.8, and that was December of 2022. A no grade copy sold for $700, while the raws are going for about $500 near mint. 9.6 copies goes for $1,100. Currently, there's 2,370 in the census for the platinum. There are some color errors that happen on some of the books, where the lizard skin, instead of it being the traditional green, in some books they came in blue, in some books they came in copper, and this is the way they look. You can clearly tell it's an error.
Yeah.
Especially the copper. Right?
Yeah.
Those books are going for significantly bigger values. Now, I didn't want to go over it because, again, it's a lot to cover. And it's just crazy to think that book, with all the copies that exist, these are just up there in price because of those errors.
Yeah. Well, as soon as I learned about this, I went and checked all my copies, and I don't have any errors.
Yeah. There was some Walmart variants as well. So that's something to take note of. All right, let's take a look at our next book, and that's Wizard Magazine #1. This came out in 1991 for Wizard Comics. Well, Wizard Magazine. A 9.8 sale went for $3,120, and that was in February of 2023. Last sale of this book was $118 at a 9.2, and that was just recently. The raws are going for $37 fine, while 9.8s go for $655. There's currently 805 copies in the census. Now, why is it here? Well, Todd was able to do Spider-Man to be in the Wizard comics. They have a great interview, but Wizard was a book that's near and dear to me. I have this copy. There's also a San Diego version that goes for even more. What's your thoughts? What was your thoughts on Wizard?
Oh, Wizard was the internet of comics back then.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you wanted to know something about what was going to happen or happening, like you read Wizard. It was at the comic store every month, and I would just go in and read it. It was, I don't think I owned any copies of it really. I just kind of flipped through at the comic shop when I was buying my other books. But yeah, very important book for sure.
It's funny you say you don't own a copy. I have every copy.
Wow.
I have every copy from the first one to the very last one.
You'd be very sad to hear then. I do own a cover. So I don't know which one it is actually. It's a Spider-Man one.
Yeah.
With Spider-Man and Hobgoblin. It was a wraparound.
Mhm.
I just have the cover.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah, I just have
Yeah.
it framed, so I don't have the rest of it.
So I have the whole series. I also have some of the specials. So there was a special image one where I had all the image characters. So I have that one, and then of course I have a lot of the 1/2 issues because Wizard was doing 1/2s as
Yeah.
well. I loved Wizard. So there was a time I took a hiatus from actually buying comics in general, but I never stopped buying Wizard. And part of the reason was so I could stay in the know.
Yeah.
Again, it was before internet was a thing. So I would stay in the know and the way I would stay in the know is by picking up Wizard.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Wizard doesn't exist today. We know it today as Fan Expo. Wizard World was the convention that it used to be, and then Fan Expo. So they bought it out. I sorely miss Wizard. I really do. It was so much fun. In fact, for those of you who don't know, one of the things I want with this channel is, and one of my goals, and I shared this with you, this is kind of like my mission, is to make this channel the Wizard magazine in YouTube, where we talk about trending, we talk about art, we talk about pretty much everything that you could find in Wizard, and we talk about it in this channel. And I think I would like to think I'm doing a good job getting there, but that's my goal.
I'd say so, but maybe I'm biased.
Well, if you give me that Batman, we'll talk. Well,
I don't know
it
about
wouldn't
that.
it wouldn't bother me so
Let's not
much.
go crazy.
All right, let's take a look at our next book, and that's Flaming Carrots Comics 27. This came out in 1991 for Dark Horse Comics. A high sale of this book was $575 at 9.8, and that was in August of 2023. Last sale of this book was $19 at a no grade. The raws are going for $19 as well. Very fine. While the graded copy goes for $142. So there's only 181 copies in the census. This is featuring cover art by Todd McFarlane, and it's the only known cover of him doing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Well, if you're a Turtles fan, you have to own this book, I'm going to guess.
It's the only one. As of right now, even though there was an announcement just recently about McFarlane Toys with Turtles. But this is the only known comic that features Todd McFarlane doing the Turtles. That
And
we know
it's not
of.
that much money either.
Yeah, it's very inexpensive. So I had to throw it in there. All right, let's take a look at our next book. And that's Previews Volume 2, Number 3. This is a Diamonds book in 1992. The high sale is $450 raw, and that was in April of 2023. 6.0 of this book goes for $267. The raws are going for $90 that are very good, while graded 6.0 also goes for $267. It's the same book, guys. Currently, there's only 42 in the census. Here's what's interesting. This is the first public image of Spawn in full color. Interior pinup advertised for Spawn number 1 in full cover. McFarlane reveals details about Spawn in the interior articles. This is the first time we get to see Spawn in color.
This was an absolute crazy time to be in comics. Like finding out, and again, there's no internet really. Just hearing through word of mouth and through Wizard magazine and whatnot about, Todd leaving with all those people, it actually made like regular news. Like you could see it in articles. It was crazy when this time. And Spawn was the flagship book. And for a first issue, like when you look at it, it looks great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really does. So what's going on, Mega? They're grading previews now. Jeez. I went in, I checked it out. It exists. As you know, Previews is a very, very thick book. However, I don't know how thick they were back then.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But a lot of people look at this book and they forget about this book. They think about this book more. Malibu Sun number 13 that came out in 91 for Malibu Comics. This book at a 9.8 goes for $5,750, and that was the high sale, and that was in January 2022. As of today, the last sale was $300 at no grade, $216 the fair market value for a very fine, while $533 at a 9.0. In the census, there's $1,325. This is what we consider to be the first cover appearance and interior images of Spawn within a comic book format, even though Malibu Sun in itself is not a traditional comic book. So a lot of people seek this book out. Why do you think they don't try to seek out the previews as much?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. Maybe because it's more of a comic book. I mean, when you get a character that is as popular as Spawn, and there's so many copies of Spawn 1, you're going to have people start to dig deeper and try to find these preview magazines or early ads or anything like that to kind of have a little bit more rare, earlier appearance.
Yeah. I think this is, again, this is pretty much the cover of Spawn #1, right?
Yeah.
It just gets recolored a little bit.
Just getting more refined.
Yeah, Ken Stacy takes the colors duties for it. And, you know, beforehand, I would have thought Malibu Sun was the first as well, but apparently it seems to be previews that takes that job. There's actually some other comic books that have black and white versions of Spawn. So they're not as sought after as well. And I chose not to put them out here, but it was being advertised. So Spawn was being advertised in several books before we actually get to see Spawn in color. Here's where we get to see Spawn in color in a comic book format. However, previews was the first book. Okay. All right. What's going on, Herb? How you doing, my man? And yeah, I miss Wizard too. All right, let's take a look at our next book, and that's got to be Spawn #1, 1992 for Image Comics. A 9.9 sold for $9,995 back in December of 2021. 9.8 goes for last sold for $135. Near mid value of this book is $29 at a raw and $134 at a 9.8. The census count is very high for this book at $35,315.
I'm going to mention it again. Every time I see this cover, I mention it. I've got my sweet, sweet newsstand of this. That's going to be very high grade that I'm going to be sending in very soon.
That's a good book to have.
Yeah, I love this book. And, you know, this is another one. When you go to conventions, every booth pretty much is going to have a graded copy of this book because it still sells. Like, it's still something that people want. And it's still a character that is still going on. And, you know, it's still good. So
Spawn is a special case. He really is. It is everything you love about comics. That's what Spawn is. And Todd has taken care of this character for as long as he has. You know, we're talking about 30 plus years taking care of this character.
Yeah.
You know, we're still waiting for another movie to happen. The first one was fine. You know, it was a product of its time, to be completely honest. Yeah, so going back to the census count, because I want to address the question here. The census count, I only look at the direct markets. I don't look at the newsstands. So if I was to do the newsstands, there'll be way too much work on my end. So when it comes to this 35,000 copies, this is the 35,000 copies according to the direct market. So therefore, there's more.
Yeah.
There's more. What's the difference in count? I don't know. But obviously, when it comes to the time frame, you always have to consider the time frame. In the 90s, the direct market was taking there was more copies in the direct market than there were in the newsstands. In the 80s, it was kind of a 50-50, so there's no real difference. In the 70s, there was actually less direct market books than there were newsstands. So look at it from that kind of perspective.
I think 87 is the pivot point where it was kind of equal.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, newsstands start to become more rare. before that, they're more common.
Yeah, it started doing like this X effect, right?
Yeah.
Where beforehand there was more newsstand because there was more newsstand shops than there were comic shops. And then at the 80s, like you said, 87, around that time frame is when you had that there's an equal playing field. And then in the 90s, we saw a drop in newsstands and we saw a rise in direct. So therefore, and then by the time we hit the 2000s, the newsstands practically don't exist.
Yeah.
They're there, but they practically don't exist.
And it's one of those things that as a newer collector that you kind of have to be aware of, because people selling books, they're going to sell a book that was done in 85 and mark it as a newsstand. I mean, it doesn't signify that it's rare, obviously, at that point. It's actually more common.
Yeah, and that's just like a seller's, unfortunately, trick to try to get a book at a higher price. Yeah. I would never buy a book based off of direct versus newsstand unless there was real significance behind it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like I would say the late 90s is probably, if someone tells me in the late 90s is a newsstand, then maybe I'll have a better likelihood of me to say, okay, that book is a little more rare.
Yeah.
But exactly. Personally, I could care less. It's all the same book. The difference is a barcode. That's my honest opinion. It's the same book. The difference is a barcode. All right, let's take a look at our next book. Spawn number 9. This also came out in 1993 for Image Comics. High sale of this book is $400 at a 9.6, and that was November of 2023. The last sale of this book was $9 at a fine. The raws are going for $6, while the graded copies are going for $85 and 9.8. Currently, there's 8,309 copies in the census for this book, and this features the first appearance of Angela, which also is who is acquired by Marvel. We'll talk a little bit about that. And Medieval Spawn, also some other characters. This cover, and I actually found out this week, was inspired by Wonder Woman 72. And we'll look at that in a second.
So much drama in this early Spawn run, like with the writers and all of that, because of how we brought on the writers for this after a certain point. I can't remember when it actually starts.
I think it was 6.
Yeah, this is a Neil Gaiman written book, and there was a lot of disputes over this character and payments and all of that stuff that really is still kind of going on.
Well, actually, it's over now. It's done. So, and this is why I brought that up. So, during in 1993, Todd McFarlane wanted to bring in some popular writers. So he got guys that he believed were really worth doing, and he asked them to do the writing duties for these characters. Neil Gaiman was for this one, issue number 9. You had Alan Moore did an issue as well. Yeah. You had Dave Sims, who did Cerebus, which was very important as well. So why did I pick this one over the other ones? Well, I picked this one because after a while, there was a dispute on who had the creator rights. Neil Gaiman is it's known for trying to own the creator rights to his characters, thus Sandman and things like that. Now, granted, it's usually like a co-ownership, and I think that was the case with Angela. But for some reason or another, it went to a dispute, and like you said, because of royalties and things like that. There was toy lines and all that stuff that came along with it. And I don't think Neil Gaiman was getting anything from that. So they went to court. And in court, the judge decided over Neil Gaiman, over Todd McFarlane. Why? I don't know why. Maybe whatever. You know what I'm saying? Artists versus writers, right?
Yeah, there's a really, really good cartoonist kayfabe where they actually read the transcript from the courtroom out, like read the whole thing. It's really, really, really cool to listen to.
Yeah. So when it was all said and done, Neil Gaiman had the rights to Angela. And Todd could no longer use her until a certain moment. So he still had rights to her. So he ended up doing it, and this is the homage we were talking about, which is not one for one, but that's how it was homaged. I got to get to it later, but let's go back here for a second. So we're going to talk a little bit more about it as we look at it. But when we look at the homage here, you can see his inspiration for the character was done by a great George Perez Wonder Woman. Like I said, I didn't know it was an homage. So and so here's the homage. Again, it's not the exact one for one, but you could clearly say by the placement, even the stance a little bit, he was trying to channel that image, which is great. Another book that we're going to talk about, we'll come back. We will revisit the Angela story. Okay? Because I want to talk about this one, and that's Satan 6 #1. This came out in 1993 for Topps Comics. A high sale of this book is $46 and 9.8, and that was all the way back in August of 2024. Last sale of this book was $3 at near mint. This book is going for $3 at near mint, while the 9.8 is still $46. There's only 41 copies in the census. Why is it here? Jack Kirby did this cover, but it's inked by Todd McFarlane. There's an important note to be put here. Todd adored Jack Kirby. And when he was asked to do inks over Jack Kirby, he was too intimidated by it. So he said, can I draw it over vellum? And vellum is pretty much it's kind of like a code. It's like a coded paper, and you could draw over. It's kind of like tracing paper in a weird way, but it's a harder form that you could utilize it to draw over it. And in this case, ink over a page. That's what this is. So the pencils still exist for this book.
Yeah, I've never heard of this book. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me respond to my wife here because she's texting me. All right. So it's just cool seeing that. A lot of people don't know it. And look at how inexpensive this book is.
Oh, yeah. $3.
Right. $3. $46 and 9.8. Come on. You know? All right. Spawn Batman. Not #1, but the Image Comics. 1994 for Image Comics. High sale of this book is $200 and 9.8. This was all the way back in October of 2022. Last sale of this book was $4 at a fine, and that's the price for a fair market value for the raws, while $124 for 9.8. There's currently 2,535 copies of this book in the census. So Todd, we talked about last week with Marvel and DC crossovers. Todd was very adamant that his crossover event had to have the best. So if he's considered to be the best artist at the time he wants to get the best writer. And at that time, Frank Miller was the guy. So what's your thoughts on Batman Spawn, or better yet, Spawn Batman?
So
with Frank Miller's writing.
They did two versions. Mm-hmm. This is my more favorite version because it's like Miller took what he did in The Dark Knight and just dialed it up to 11 with Batman, and it was just awesome. I loved it.
It's a cool story, especially that one scene where Batman throws a batarang at Spawn, because Batman doesn't like Spawn in this comic.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a fun book. The reason why it's so inexpensive is because, again, like before, there's a lot of copies of this book. You could get this book you could get this book anywhere. And there's a lot of copies. What's really hard is because it's a bound book, it might be harder to get a good copy. You know? But it's a fun book. It's a great fun read.
Yeah.
It's not like the best story ever written, but it's just a fun story. Yeah. And when we get to the next one afterwards, when we get to the next crossover event, they continue that story, which I think is really cool. Next book is Spawn #1, the black and white 1 in 50 variant. This book came out in 1991 for Image Comics. A high sale went for $4,700 for 9.8, and that was in March of 2021. The last sale of this book was $669 and 9.6. That also happens to be the fair market value for a graded, while Near mint raw goes for $567. There's only 1,171 copies in the census. This is a reprint of Spawn #1, done in black and white. The only way you were able to get this was that it was a purchase of every 50 copies. So this was a 1 in 50 incentive that came out back in 97. Incentives didn't really exist for that time, but if you purchased Spawn 65, if you purchased more than 50 copies, you were going to get at least one of these for every 50 copy.
It's awesome, and I'd never seen this book before, but it's a cool cover, and it's definitely a ghost. Like, I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah. So there are numerous reprints of Spawn #1, but this happens to be the biggest one because of that reason. Because there was only one way you could get it, and that's you had to purchase Spawn 65 to get it.
Yeah.
All right. Our next book here is Spawn 119. This book came out in 2002 for Image Comics. And a high sale of this book was $1,025 and 9.8. And it was in April of 2021. Last sale of this book was $90 near mint in January. That also happens to be the fair market value, which is about really $1 more at $91. The graded copy of this book is $270 and 9.8. In the census, there's 731 copies. This features the first team appearance of Hellspawn Army, first cameo appearance of the Gunslinger, first full appearance happened 6 years later. Also has a cameo appearance of an unknown She-Spawn and a few other distinctly different characters that could be developed at some point in the future. So the purpose behind this book is we get a cameo of Gunslinger Spawn that shows up 6 years later. But what was Todd McFarlane doing at this time is that he was already planting seeds for what's to come. One of the things about this book that's really cool is the fact that it took 6 years before we got to see any of these characters reappearing. I think that is pretty forward thinking. That is something that he's planning ahead. Of course, he has a writing team that's part of that. At this point, Spawn was dwindling in sales. It wasn't not a lot of people were buying Spawn at this time, but he was still keeping the book going. He continued to work on Spawn. So that's Spawn 119. Again, while we wait for Shane to return, I just want to let everybody know. First of all, thank you for watching the show. Thank you for being with us this time. We've still got a lot of stuff to cover. We do have a show coming up very soon. Just want to let you guys know that this Friday we're going to have a monthly comic book breakdown. We'll talk a little bit more about that. The last time we did it was a lot of fun, so be on the lookout for that on Friday. And Shane, you are back.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I kept it moving for the time being. All right. So as I was telling them in the group here watching it, this features the first appearance of the Gunslinger, but it's a cameo that we don't see come to fruition until 6 years later. And the same thing should be said about She-Spawn. This is a book that Todd was planting the seeds way in advance.
Yeah, and this is another one that is in my next batch to go to CGC. Just decided, I pull this Spawn out and send it because of Gunslinger.
It's cool. Let's take a look at our next line of books. So starting with 220, Todd decided to go the homage route. And we're not going to go off the prices because, again, it's a lot. But you could see here every issue afterwards. For some reason, he just felt like doing homages. And he was doing homages for a while. So 220 was the start of it all. But he then gives us Spawn, the Rob Liefeld Youngblood homage. He does the Eric Larson Savage Dragon, calling it Savage Spawn. Amazing Fantasy or Spawn as Amazing. He does an homage to his popular 316. He also does an homage to Spawn of the Dead. Then he gives us the Spawn Night Returns.
I love that cover. I love it.
I love this one. I personally love the Watchmen Spawn But then he throws in election 2024 or Obama wins. I thought that was funny. He also does an homage to Incredible Hulk 340 with Violator and Spawn. Then he does Spawn with the typical 300. Note, this will return. He homages himself with 227 for the Amazing 300. He then homages Action Comics #1. And he also homages Incredible Hulk done by Steranko. Then he wraps it up with an homage to his Batman. And he also homages his famous Spider-Man #1. What's your thoughts on all those homages?
They hurt me, Izzy, because I have every Spawn comic up to issue 170, and then I stopped getting them.
Really?
Yeah. So all of those low print homages, all that stuff. I have a few issues later on, but all of these, I don't know if I have any of them.
To pick these up, it's going to be really challenging because they're going for a pretty penny now.
Yeah, they're so hard to get. I never see any of these homage covers. Very, very few of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some go for like 120, 150. So they're really costly. We also have, he ends it up and he does the road to 300. So he decides to homage 298, 299, and then finally returns to do another homage of 300.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Typical Todd.
300 right? I have. That one I do have.
Mm-hmm. But it's cool that he managed to get to that point where his book now has 300 issues, and that's a very special book because it's a book that kind of starts, it's like we finally did it. We made it.
Yeah.
Right? Our next book here is a fun one. It's Spawn Kills Everyone #1. Now, we're not talking about the regular book. We're talking about the Todd McFarlane employee variant. Now, this book came out in 2026 for Image Comics. The high sale of this book is at $1,999, practically $2,000 and 9.8, and that was in May of 2022. Last sale of this book was $781 at a 9.8, and that was in October of 2024. Raws for this book go for $850 near mint, while graded copies, there's really one graded copy, and the average is $781. This is where it gets interesting. There's only 27 in existence in the census. However, there's approximately 50 copies of this book. Each one of them are individualized for the employers of the Todd McFarlane office. So that's why it's called an employee edition. So there's approximately 50 copies of this book. More than half of them are in the census.
Yeah. Do you think he gets upset when people sell them?
It's their book at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So who knows? But he signed them all. They're all signed. And there's about 50 of them.
Yeah. Maybe he thought of it like it's like almost giving them a bonus because he knew they could sell it for money.
Possibly. Here's the other thing. He's killing them in the book.
Yeah.
so why not sell it? You know what I'm saying? But it would be cool to own just one of them. Because it's like everywhere I looked, the cover has a different name. So there's one that says Andy, there's another one that says Aaron. I've never seen the cover duplicated because it has a different name attached to it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Our next book is a set of books, in fact. Now, again, Todd has this thing now when he goes to conventions, he likes leaving books for them. So we have King Spawn, Gunslinger, and the Scorch, which is where She-Spawn comes from. Again, these are really cool covers that he's been doing lately.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now we're getting we're heading towards the end. We got just like a few more books before we get to the end. Batman Spawn, we're going to look at the 1 in 1,000 Todd McFarlane, Greg Capullo signed variant. And what happened here is that they both worked on it back in 2022. I can't believe it's already been that long. Yeah. This is the sequel to the Batman Spawn from the one that we talked about a while ago. The book at a high goes for $2,025 and 9.8, and that was just recently. I was actually a few years ago. That was in February of 2023. The last sale of this book was $650 and 9.6, and that was in November of 2023. The raws are going for $1,200, while the graded copy goes for $98,900. Wait, a graded copy. Look at me. This is way. I have to start. I think I should start all over. What do you think? Should I start all over? I'm tongue twisting myself here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try this all again. A high sale of this book goes for $2,025 and 9.8, and that was in February of 2023. The last sale of this book was at $650 at a 9.6, and that was in November of 2023. The raws are going for $1,200 near mint. However, the graded copies are going less for $942 and 9.8. The census count has 186 in it. This is the third Batman Spawn crossover. Remember, the second one was that Klaus Janson one that happened, which we didn't showcase here. This also features a first appearance of an alternate universe talent from the Court of Owls with cosmic powers, and this is a mashup of two books that were done by Todd McFarlane and Greg Capullo.
So, just my quick mathing skills, that means that somehow they sold 186,000 copies of this at least.
Possibly.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the book sold for a lot.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel that it's not that hard, you know. Chances are the high end stores got books, and some stores decided to go for it just to get the one.
Yeah.
So there's got to be less than 200 in existence. Yeah. So who knows? All right. Let's take a look at our next book. And that's Spawn Universe Sampler of 2023. This book came out in 2023, of course, for Image Comics. The high sale of this book is $750 and 9.8, and that was in December of 2024. $750 is the last sale of the book, and that was at that same high sale. This book has no sales in raws. However, a 9.8 sells for $599. There's currently 24 in the census. So this book was distributed New York Comic Con in a panel that Todd McFarlane was not present for. He had a wedding. He was at his daughter's wedding, and it features preview artwork from Gunslinger, Sam and Twitch, and some other items. I was at that panel, and I did get a copy.
Oh no, it's a wicked cover. I love it.
I'll tell you right now, I no longer have it. And I will also tell you, I think I got a deal.
That's good.
Yeah, so when I got it, it was one of those situations where I knew about the panel. I knew it was happening. So, of course, I was there. I wish I had someone with me, but I was solo that day. So if somebody was with me, I would have been able to have two copies. But it was the book that kind of like took care of my convention that weekend. So that was the whole point.
That's good.
Yeah. So sometimes, you know, I know someone wanted the book and contacted me after I sold it. I was like, I'm sorry, bro, I sold it. Like I sold it that night. I literally sold it that night. So for me, it was worth it. Now that I know what the census count is, I'm a little upset now, you know, but it's okay. Our next book is Spawn 350. This was the Todd McFarlane, another employee. This wasn't a. Oh no! I'm mad.
It was just one.
Actually, there's two. We'll talk about the other one later. Give me a second here. I just want to clarify what's it actually called. It's not an employer variant. It is a store. It's it's one per store exclusive. That's what it is. Son of a gun. Shoot. I'm gonna put the blame on you. Screw it. It's your fault.
Yep.
Or it's got to be the comic vet. The comic vet. He came here and he said he had cosmic powers. Yeah, it was a free giveaway. It was definitely a giveaway. So let's see here if I can find it. I'm gonna tell you what it's called. So there it is. I found it. Now I lost it. It is there. It is. So, all right. So Spawn. Let me take this down. Spawn 350. This is the Todd McFarlane retailer. Thank you, and it was signed. It was one per store. The book had a high sale of $4,351 and 9.8, and that was in April of 2024. The book last sold for $450 in April of this year. Raws are going for $575. However, on average, because when you do the average is $3,350 for a 9.8. There's currently 226 books in the census. This is a one per store variant. And it was kind of fun because you got Spawn with the patch, with the pouches.
Yeah. You got to be kicking yourself if you're the one that paid $4,300 for it.
You wanted it.
Yeah.
So, when it came out, you wanted it. So you got it and you paid the money. So now, yeah, I wouldn't have paid $4,000 for this book. I'm sorry. It's just
my store asked me if I wanted this book, and they wanted I think 500 Canadian at the time, like when it was coming out. And I was just like, no, I don't think this is gonna hold on to that type of value. So I'm glad I didn't pay for it.
So one of the things I will say about Spawn, and I think we've had this conversation before, Spawn books usually do hold their value. Now $4,000, I don't know about that, but I will say usually they hold their value. So when they hold their value, it's a big deal. So, and I think it's the fan base. It has everything to do with the fan base. Now, there is a version of this book that's not signed that I think more people are trying to grab. And that's the one that's worth a lot. So there's one that's signed like this one, and there's one that's not signed. And people are hunting down the ones that are not signed because he practically signed everything.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's the weird situation where the other one's the one.
Yeah.
Okay. And finally, we've reached the end, and that is Spawn 360. This is the 150 Brett Booth variant. This just came out in 2025 for Image Comics. The high sale of this book is $270 raw. That was in January. And the last sale was $200 in near mint. This book is going for raw for $200. There's no reported CGC slabs because there are only 6 in existence at the moment. But this is the return of Todd McFarlane writing Spawn once again. I love this cover. This is a beautiful cover.
Yeah, and this is what kind of brought me back to Spawn full time, because it was a great point to jump on, because I missed a bunch. I had a few issues here and there, but Todd's going to write it again. Okay, that's a good enough excuse for me to start getting it again.
Yeah, and it's cool because it's nice to see him return to the book, and especially with other things that are happening with Spawn. I think there's a lot of excitement for Spawn right now that there wasn't years ago. But the Spawn fan base they're strong, so it's cool. Now, I didn't mention what happened with the Angela story. So when we go back to Angela, what ended up happening was, I think it was an issue 200 or something like that. Let me see if I could get that book back, because I must have taken it off this list. I don't know why. Let's see if I can find a book here. Yeah, was it 200? 200 here is considered a key. Okay, so I don't have it in front of me right now. So Angela was he was allowed to utilize Angela one more time. And when he utilized Angela, he was allowed to kill her off. And that's what he did. He eventually killed her off. Neil Gaiman had the rights, and out of spite, he sold it to Marvel.
Yeah.
That's kind of messed up, though.
Yeah.
You have this huge battle over a character, and you sell it off after you said and done. That's how much he didn't. That's how much he wanted to do it out of spite. It's kind of messed up.
Yeah. Now, do you think that Todd has any desire before, like, he's kind of done drawing, to go back to Spider-Man again and do any kind of like a run on ASM or a series or anything?
So it's funny you should say that, because there is an interview with Todd, and this interview had everything to do with the new Spawn the new figures. So you know the figures that just came out that he's done, the McFarlane toys with Wolverine, X-Men, and they're done in the McFarlane. In that interview, he openly said that the day will come he will return to Spider-Man. Right? However, he needs to have that control to do it. So that it will be a crossover event. He will eventually do Spider-Man sometime. Is it right now? The answer is no. But we know, and we have reassurance from Todd himself, that he will eventually return to Spider-Man. Not full-time, of course, but he will do the art.
That would be great.
Mm-hmm. Will he be writing? That's the question of the day for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out which is the book that features the death of Angela, so that I could tell you guys what it is. So my wife keeps texting me, like, because I got to pick her up, so I'm making her wait. I told her I got a show. She didn't believe me. Let's see here. Where is it? Oh gosh, it's one of the anniversary issues where he kills her off. If you guys know in the chat, let me know. Where is it? Oh, yeah, there's so much stuff he's done. It's ridiculous when you go into this list.
Issue 100.
Is issue 100? You found it?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. Yes, it is in issue 100. I can't believe I took that off. So issue 100 is the issue, and that came out in 2000. Features the death of Angela, who's speared through the chest by Malbolgia. Malbolgia also dies in the book, but this was forced by Todd. Had to force the death because he lost the court case, so the rights to Angela was going. So if you get issue 100, that's the book that you
Good.
get.
I have that one.
Yeah, that's the death. That's the last time we see Angela in a Spawn book, and then she goes to Marvel. So there you have it. Woo-hoo, we found the book. All right, guys. There you have it. That's your Todd McFarlane, or McFarlane, like I call it, Creator Spotlight. I hope you enjoyed that one. That was an extensive one. We went through a lot for this one. Tell me what you think about it. Tell me if I missed any books. Of course I missed books. Tell me which books you have, which books you want to look for. Let me know in the comments, guys. I'll see you in the next one when we do our next Creator Spotlight, which we'll got to find out what we're going to do, but we don't know yet. But there you have it. Let's get ready for the next part. So we got one more thing to do, and we're going to have to move quick on this because my wife is constantly texting me here, telling me, hey, we got to do this. We got to do this. But before we do that, just to let you guys know, we got a show on Friday. This Friday, we're going to be doing the monthly comic book breakdown. I'm going to be so excited to go over the top slabs, the top books of the month of February. It's a great show. Be on the lookout for that. Also, this weekend, Elite Comics Elect Expo. I will be there on Saturday. I'm not sure I'll be there on Sunday, but I'll be in there on Saturday. I'm looking forward to the show. It's their first show. A lot of good vendors and free parking. If you're in Queens, go check it out. All right. Woo-hoo. Let's talk about some new comic books. You ready to
Positive
talk
comic
about
book
new
day.
comics? We're gonna go quick on this one because I got someone waiting. But anyway, let's take a look at what's coming out this week in your comic book shops.
Yeah. Yeah.
New comic book, March 5th, 2025. Notice it's a Star Wars comic in the front.
Yes.
What do you think?
I'm looking forward to it. I've been off of Star Wars for a while, just because they've kind of been doing that whole Battle of Jakku thing, which I didn't get into.
Yeah.
So
I'm
looking
not,
forward to this.
yeah, I myself am not much into Star Wars comics. I don't really collect them like that. I'm looking forward to this one. I kind of want to read it. So I
Yeah,
will be picking up a copy.
It's the first Marvel comics set in the prequel era, so that's something.
Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about what was previously fresh. These are the books that were top voted by the League of Comic Geeks polls. And number 1 was Ultimate Spider-Man 14 with 34%. Number 2 was Absolute Wonder Woman 25 with 25%. Absolute Wonder Woman number 5. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was the next one. Superman for 3. And then Batman The Long Halloween. The Last Halloween. That's a mouthful. Did you read any of these books?
I read all of them except for Turtles, which I would have bought, but it's in that Diamond Vortex. And I would say for sure Ultimate Spider-Man is my favorite book that's being published right now. It is so good, and this issue was really good. Big cliffhanger ending. Lots of stuff happened in it. Amazing read. Absolute Wonder Woman 2, that I would put that where it is. Great read. Even Superman is good. And Long Halloween, you got Sienkiewicz on art interior in that, so it's also really good.
Cool. All right. Let's take a look at what's coming up with the rundown. And these are fresh off the shelves. We got new releases, 70 new releases coming out this week. Among them, there's 317 variants. Wait till you see who owns the variants. It's probably be no surprise. The total is 387 comic books coming out this week. New number ones, there are 18 new number ones with 105 variants. That brings the total of 123 new books. As far as keys go, the potential keys, we have 11 potential keys, which includes 7 first appearances. You have a feeling who has the most variants, don't you? You have a good idea? I'm looking at the chat, and maybe they know too.
Yeah. We all know who does.
Marvel Comics has 16 new titles with these 57 variants. DC has 11 titles with 31 variants. When we look at our independent books, we have Image Comics with 9 titles and 19 variants. Boom Studios has 2 comics with 9 variants. IDW has 3 titles with 5 variants. Let's skip that one, and we'll go to Dark Horse with 4 titles and 4 variants. And with just 8 titles. You're speechless. Speechless.
I don't understand how you could possibly have like a successful title with so many variants.
Okay, Dynamite Entertainment, my friends, have 8 titles with 156 variants.
That's insane.
That's how many variants they do per book. And according, yeah, it's Dynamite, man. They blew it up. Literally. That's Dynamite for you. Indie publishers, 17 titles with 34 variants. So let's take a look at our books. Our key watch, I told you, Star Wars Jedi Knights #1. That first cover, the cover A is a Raza cover, which is awesome. There's also a Ramon Rosado foil cover. I'm so interested in seeing what this foil cover looks like.
Yeah.
You know, also there's a Torrent Clark lightsaber foil cover as well. This is the first series that takes place in the prequel era. It features some first appearances, so you know this book is going to be sought after. So you're going to want to search for, if you're looking for spec, search for the books that are going to have the first appearance of these characters. Those are the ones that you're going to probably want to grab. I personally am just going to pick a cover A because I'm not that interested in these first appearances like that, because Star Wars is notorious for doing a lot of first appearances that have spec value at first, but then they drop in value after a while. Let's take a look at our next book, and that's Secret Six #1. This features a new roster that will have John Kent, Jay Nakamura, Dreamer, Deadshot, Catman, and Black Alice. This is also drawn by Steven Sokovia, who is also doing the cover for cover A. There's Ariel Olivet foil cover, another book that I can't wait to see what that foil looks like. And there's a 1 in 25 Sweeney Boone cover. What's your thoughts on Secret Six?
I don't know anything about this book. I didn't even know it was coming out. So I'll flip through it on Wednesday, take a look and see.
Yeah, Steven Sokovia is an amazing artist. So for him doing interiors, he's usually a cover artist. He usually does a lot of cover art now, but he's doing the interiors for this book. So that got me hooked to hear that. An amazing artist. Also comes out Uncanny X-Men 11. This features the X-Manhunt crossover event. This is the start. So if you want to have a jumping on point, here you go. David Marquez does cover A. There's a beautiful Peach Momoko cover featuring Rogue. And Phil Noto has a lineup covers, and they're going to be covers.
X-Men has been really good recently, both Uncanny, but more so the regular X-Men title. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with this. I won't buy all of these X-Manhunt titles because there's just some X-Men books that I'm.
Yeah, they're gonna be they're gonna be connected. So you're gonna have to. That's pretty much something you're gonna have to do if you're gonna have to read the whole story full. So who knows how that works out. Birds of Prey 19. This is, I wouldn't consider this much of a key, but it does feature Constantine in the book, so you might want to check that out. I picked it up because I think it has some amazing covers. Starting with the Dan Panozia cover, which is beautiful. There's also a Serge Acuna cover, and there's a 1 in 25 Serge Acuna cover, and that features the League of Assassins that presses the attack. Black Canary, Sin, and Minajera try to bond through violence as they find themselves overwhelmed by a splinter League of Assassins clan bent on reacquiring Sin. Have you been reading Birds of Prey?
No, I haven't been picking it up, but I do like that 1 in 25 cover. Looks really good.
Yeah. I haven't picked up Birds of Prey, but, it has Constantine, so maybe I'll be interested in checking that out. Also, we have, this is one to pick up. Web of Spider-Verse New Blood #1. There's some major covers, but these are the 3 that you're gonna want to pick out if you want to pick this book out, because it features the first appearance of Spider-Prowl, and more importantly, the first appearance of Count Spider, a Spider-Man who has the powers of a vampire.
Enough with the Spider-Verse and Venom-verse.
It's the center one. I think is going to be the big one. The Lucas.
Yeah,
one.
like I'll get this book, but they're just the success they had with the very first Edge of Spider-Verse, which brought us, Spider-Gwen. They've just been chasing that ever since, and at
least they stopped calling it Edge, and now we can call it Web.
I know. I'm kind of done with all of the Spider-Verse stuff. I enjoy the movies and the characters. Some of them have been really great, but there's usually not a whole lot that happens in these crossovers.
Yeah, I agree. It is a book that's probably worth checking out just to see, but we'll see what's up. Also, we have Doctor Strange of Asgard #1. This is a tie-in to the One World Under Doom event. There's some really good covers for this book. Really good covers. There's a Jeff Shaw, there's a David Marquez, and there's a 1 in 100 Clayton Crane. Keep in mind, there's also a trade dress that you could purchase as open order for this book.
Yeah, and I gotta say that I did not expect a whole lot from this One World Under Doom, to be honest. But every title I've read, I've liked, and the writing for Doom has been excellent across all of them.
Mm. This one's probably worth checking out. And then finally, our indie key is really the Herculoids #1. We're just showing you 3 covers of what appears to be a billion. The Francisco Matea cover, which is beautiful. The Felipe Masarera is another gorgeous one. And yes, there's a Rob Liefeld cover. I love the Herculoids. Just, again, we talked about Space Ghost and Johnny Quest earlier. Herculoids has a special place in my heart, too. I love them. How you feel about the Herculoids?
Don't know anything about them.
Really? You weren't familiar with the Herculoids?
No,
So
because there must have been a show, and I didn't get like network television when I was a kid, so I've never heard.
Yeah,
of these.
so the Herculoids are part of the whole Space Ghost series. So they're in the Space Ghost universe. And with this one here, and again, it's like Herculoid, what? It's probably didn't go to Canada. That's probably what it is. The Herculoids is a Hanna-Barbera product, and it's set in prehistoric times, and it's just a fun story. It really is. It's just fun stuff from Hanna-Barbera, but I look forward to it. Okay. All right, let's take a look at some eye-catching variants, starting with Poison Ivy 31. We see the corners. The Jenny Frison 1 in 50 is gorgeous. Also, the 1 in 25 Tula Lotaya is also a beautiful piece. I know Chris is watching, so you know we got to be careful because we got some Jenny Frison books. That Birds of Prey 19, I might pick that one up.
Yeah, that's a unique kind of Frison look too. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I like the Black Canary more than anything because I've already gotten my fix on Jenny Frison Poison Ivy. I'm okay with it. But yeah, you see, he likes it. Birds of Prey is way better. Yeah, it's so cool how she did it. Like she got the siren sounds. I'm down. Mm-hmm. All right. Also, Ultimates 10 in Huck Lee. Have you seen a more jacked up namer than that?
Nope.
You know, we have a good friend that's picking that book up.
Most likely, yeah.
Also, you got a Stephen Platt Wolverine #7. That's a cool cover. I love the red.
You got Platt on the cover. You got to buy it.
Yeah.
It's going to go up in value.
Most likely, yeah. NYX #9 is the 1 in 25 Fang Yang cover featuring X-23. I like that one too. That's a good cover.
The only thing good about that title is that it's ending.
Oh, wow. But what about this cover?
Cover's great.
Yeah.
Cover's very good.
NYX is not a good book?
No, I don't like it. I'm not a fan anyway.
Mm. Well, at least the cover's nice.
Yeah.
All right. Then we got Batgirl #5. This is the David Talasaski. That's cover A with the flowers. I love it.
Yeah, looks good.
Mm-hmm. And then we got 2 Batman Full Moon #4. The Steven Subic and the Francisco Francavilla. You like the Steven, right?
Yeah, I think that one is a glow in the dark too.
Oh, wow. If that's glow in the dark, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then we got the Marvel Rivals books of the week. Immortal Thor 21, Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu #6, and Doctor Strange of Asgard #1. All of these are Marvel Rivals cover. I specifically like the Loki one because it feels different.
Yeah. I like the look of the Moon Knight one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not missing the boat on these. I have 2 of each one of these coming to me.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm going to pick them up, and frankly, I don't care if they become spec value. My personal opinion is that I think they've been ordered. I don't think people are going to go crazy hunting them down like they did for the previous ones. But who knows? Who's to say they're not?
We'll find out. Yep,
we'll definitely find out next week. All right. And then finally, we got a Jenny Frison, another Jenny Frison, which is the Vampirella 675. There's 2 different versions, of course, because that's Dynamite. Thundercats 13, the Mark Spears. Can I say I don't like it?
Yeah, you're allowed.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not feeling his line, though.
I think it's missing green and more blue. in the background.
Oh, there's definitely that book has plenty of covers.
Yeah.
And definitely a lot of colors. So, and then finally, this is Something Killing the Children #1 Archive Edition, the 2025 Tiny Onion Emerald City Comic Con exclusive. This is the Martin Simmons. And boy, that is beautiful.
Yeah, that's a nice cover.
Yeah. Looks like Mel Gibson. It's not his best work.
No.
And it's Lionel. Lionel's a tough character to pull off. I think it's I think that's part of the problem with the live action to make it work. So we'll see. So there you have it, guys. I think that's the end of it. Those are your new books for this week. What are your thoughts on them? Let me know in the comments. And next week, I'm looking forward to some more new books, man. I did some FOC this week. Oh my goodness, the FOC is. If you guys get a chance to do FOC, but before the end of the night, go. There's a lot.
Yeah.
FOC this week. So, all right. We've reached the point of the show where we have to say goodbye. So Shane, let the world know where you're at.
Well, I'm on Instagram and YouTube. I do this thing here with you on today, Mondays. We have a big show on Friday, the monthly show. And I usually try to hang out with Chris on Wednesday, if he'll have me. So I love doing that show. And then I do my own thing. I have stuff posted, mainly new comic books, but Sundays and Mondays, there's stuff too. So just check it out if you want.
Yep. And you know what we're going to do? We got a lot of shows. All these videos are going to pop up throughout the week. There's also going to be our Friday live stream. As we mentioned, we're going to be doing the slabs that were sent out. We're going to be doing what was the top sold books. We'll have some figures for some we won't, but we're going to be talking about that. And of course, we're going to do the top selling books for every age, and there's some good ones. We already grabbed that number, so we have that information already. We're just waiting on some other things. So that's happening this Friday. We're going to go live. We're going to try to go for a 6 o'clock time for it, just like before. Be on the lookout for it. It's going to be great. Also, it's going to be on Go Collect, so we're going to be doing stuff there. And there's something coming up very soon that I'll share with you next week. I might be able to share it with you on Friday. Some really cool news that I'm going to share with you guys. So be on the lookout for that. I gotta let you go because I gotta go pick up my wife. So she's been waiting. She's sending me text messages like, "Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet?" I was like, "I told you what it is." So until then, Shane, I'll see you next time. And to everybody else,
I think this is it. I think you're about to go home. Okay. All right. Look, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you!
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you!
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I never said thank you.
And you'll never have to.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I guess I'll see you.